You'll see me running out the door because I'm on duty right now as a paramedic, and our deputy mayor will take over and he'll sit in the hot seat.
She got nice that you have a job. Some of us are hungry.
Actually, I've got a little thing going where I tell my friend to call me if it gets too heated. Think so? We have. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'd just like to start off our meeting this evening by acknowledging that we're on the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mushlit people. And we'd like to call the people's meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Introduction of late items. Mr. Roy, do we have any late items to add to our agenda this evening, sir?
Administration doesn't, Your Worship.
None? And council members, do we have any late items we want to add to the agenda this evening? Councilor Pickard.
Thank you to the chair. I wanted to add an in-camera at the end of the meeting regarding a land acquisition matter. Please, thank you.
Okay, and councilors, do you have any objections to that? Hearing none, we're going to add this into the agenda in camera session. And that will be that council proceed in camera pursuant to Community Charter Section 91E, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements, if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality. So that will be introduced as a late item. Agenda, that the agenda be adopted as amended with the new item included. Moved by Councilor Rumar, second by Councilor Pickard. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, call for the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Adoption of the minutes, that the regular meeting minutes from the May 5th, 2025 be adopted as presented. Who'd care to move it? Councilor Pickard, second by Councilor Pringle. We'll do somebody else. Any discussion? Seeing none, call for the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Public and statutory hearings. Seeing none. Moving forward. Unfinished business. Seeing none. Move forward. Delegations. Do we, Mr. Roy, do we have the BC Farmers Association delegation on line?
Yes, Your Worship.
Would you care to bring them into the meeting, sir?
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I feel like my mic's unmuted, but we have Brian Kingsit here, who's the executive director. So if you wouldn't mind unmuting his mic. And then I'm Michelle, I'm the communications manager. And then we have Andrew Nixon, who's our community engagement coordinator.
Yeah, welcome. Thanks for coming this evening and make yourself available to update our community and council on aquaculture within this community and the region. I'll just turn it over to you and you folks could start your presentation.
Perfect. Brian, are you able to unmute your mic?
Do we have
I'm
visual?
trying to start my video if that's possible.
Oh, yeah, we'd love to see you, Brian.
Yeah, sorry, it doesn't let me do that either.
Um, well, Mayor Lot and Council, if we can't get the video working, I can certainly give a verbal report.
We would be very open to just an auditory only presentation, Brian. Go
Okay.
ahead, proceed.
Well, why don't we do that?
Let's
So
do that.
nice for me to see you guys. So, and it was good to see to speak with Mayor Lot and Nikki at the AVIC meeting in Nanaimo. So we really appreciated your support at our booth. So what I do today is just give you guys an update on what's happening politically around salmon farming, mostly post federal election. As you guys have participated in, the federal government had been having a consultation process around what they were referred to as the transition process that had engaged Gold River, and thank you very much for your activities and letters in that regard. We're working, Grieg Seafoods has been a really significant actor in standing up for the industry, and I believe Jennifer Woodland has spoken to you on numerous occasions, and she's working extremely hard to keep the sector in Nootka Sound. So consultations ended in February on the ICED-led process. At that time, they prepared an internal report. We understand that it was a what we heard report, but it is being held very tightly. I'm assuming that information will become part of new briefing documents with the new government. So officially, we are still in the transition process. Nothing about the mandate to move salmon farms away from marine nets by June of 2029 has changed. So we are now 4 years and 1 month from that deadline. And to be honest, we still don't know some of the details, what would be required there. And it is very clear that the sector as a whole has not yet been able to see a workable solution there. And we still are very much at risk of losing the sector in British Columbia. But since January, we've been sort of working with a singular purpose of trying to bring science to the decision and reverse the ban. And so that has meant a lot of, and I'll send along some information. We've been working and building alliances with other groups, such as the BC Business Council, the BC Chamber of Commerce, the BC Agriculture Council, and the BC Natural Resource Forum, all who have stood up publicly and taken various actions to support the salmon farm sector in British Columbia and its importance to the island and BC economy. We continue being led by Michelle Franz, who just spoke, to do our ongoing social media and supporting media. And during the election process, we sent packages to all federal candidates in British Columbia. We coordinated federally with our national counterparts in the Canadian Agriculture Industry Alliance, and we've been supporting the development of third-party reports and policy positions, and also working with the important supply chain vendors in the sector. Probably, if you have not seen it before during the election period, the Macdonald-Laurier Institute came out with a significant policy report around salmon farming titled "Swimming Against the Tide: The Case for Salmon Fish Farming in British Columbia." It was written by a very well-known author who specializes in both Indigenous economic reconciliation and small community economic development. Ken Coates has positions at the the Yukon and at the University of Saskatchewan. And incidentally, he will be speaking at our AGM on June 3rd. That report was received significant attention across Canada and especially in Ottawa. And basically, to very highlight it, basically it said that moving forward required reversing the outright ban and return to evidence-based decision making. And also pointed out the fact that this is a bit of a case study for a number of natural resource issues in Canada, and the West Coast salmon farming issue really exemplifies the dangers of special interest driven decision making. The BC Business Council also has been supporting the industry. There has been a new group called the Western, it's a coalition of the Western Business Councils. So those are BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. They released a report in March called Untapped Potential, and it was subtitled Driving Canadian Prosperity Through Natural Resources. And that really put forward the call to position Canada as a global agriculture leader. And said that, and I'll summarize, the government must shift its policy environment to foster investment, jobs, and secure Canada's role as a trusted global seafood supplier. So during the last year, we've really been reaching out to other groups, and that has been paid off. And as a not an insignificant sector, but quite often we find that, you know, representing an industry that's largely headquartered on central and northern Vancouver Island, we get lost, but you know, in around the larger industries in the Lower Mainland. It's been very nice to see the importance of the sector be recognized by a number of agencies and councils that are speaking up on our behalf. We were very involved during the election to try and make sure that all employees had the right information to make their own decisions around the federal election, and encourage people to get out and vote. So where we are now post-election, we're in a little bit of a waiting game. So as I'm sure you know, we have Mark Carney, Canada's 42nd Prime Minister, with a very narrow minority government and a very renewed focus on economic development. And I will just read what I think is probably sums up the approach that Carney is claiming to take. And so I'll read this quote. Prime Minister Mark Carney promised Friday to oversee the biggest transformation of Canada's economy since the end of the Second World War, to enable it to stand up to a US President Trump. Carney has also inherited a $62 billion operating deficit. He's planning on taking it to $130 billion. That means that that'll be the largest deficit Canada's ever seen. And I think to sum that up, that means we have to get every part of Canada working, and that's not a time to be risking the jobs of 4,500 hardworking individuals on Vancouver Island and the Lower Mainland. Last week, he appointed his first cabinet that included Joanne Thompson from Newfoundland, who is the new Minister of Fisheries. And for those of you on the coast, curiously, we have now gone from the Department of Fisheries and Oceans and Canadian Coast Guard, and Oceans and Coast Guard have now been dropped, and we are now just the Ministry of Fisheries. And so we're still trying to figure out what that means. We're hoping that means a nod towards the economic development of the blue economy. Joanne Thompson is highly regarded. She has a reputation for taking good science advice. And certainly over the last year, that is something that we have not seen in the sector. Importantly, Jonathan Wilkinson, who is no longer in cabinet. And he was really the one that politicized this last year when he made his announcement and stood up with activists to talk about the ban, and did not consult or invite the industry. We also have a longtime supporter, Member of Parliament Wayne Long, who was the very first to come out against Trudeau on the salmon farm ban, who is actually now in cabinet as a Secretary of State. So we've seen a bit of a switch there, and that is positive. Carney's first cabinet meeting was this afternoon. And as such, we have no indication yet where Carney is going to come down and the new minister is going to come down on the sector. But in the broad strokes, we are feeling that we're moving in a positive direction. Important, and I'll come back later, the first in-person meeting that Prime Minister Carney is going to have with the premiers is going to be on June 2nd. The other thing coming out of the election is that we now have opposition on the island, members of parliament, Aaron Gunn representing the North Island, and Tamara Cronus and Nanaimo Ladysmith, who have both identified as strong supporters of the industry on Vancouver Island. And that's a big change from where the NDP MPs that we had, who were, Lisa Marie Barron, Gord Johns, and Rachel Blaney, who at various times were very against the sector. And Gord Johns was reelected, but the NDP has lost party status in Ottawa, which means that they will not be part of a lot of the critical committees, such as the Fisheries and Oceans Parliamentary Committee. And then I'll just bring that around to also talk about provincially. So right now, one of the key things is that Premier Eby has not been highly supportive of the sector. He's been supportive privately in meetings, but has taken, I would say, at best, a lukewarm approach to the sector. We now have Dr. Anna Kindy in the North Island, who's been very supportive of the sector, has stood up publicly on the sector and the jobs and the economic benefits. She has arranged meetings with our members, with the opposition critics, to talk about the sector, and that's been a really positive change for us as well. We are seeing some interest, and similarly to the federal situation, being with record deficits. The repeal of the carbon tax has now pushed the BC operating deficit from a record of $11 billion now to what will be a $13 billion operating deficit. We now have the highest operating deficit of any, I believe, any province in Canada, and the highest operating deficit that BC has ever seen. And that has, again, really significant ramifications. We cannot afford to lose any jobs. We need to figure out how to have some fiscal prudence. And I'll just say the same thing that I've said in multiple occasions, including to Premier Eby in a couple of informal conversations. I dare anyone to come up with another sector that has the ability to pivot as fast as the salmon aquaculture sector on Northern Vancouver Island, both to maintain jobs and create new growth with all the secondary supply activity that it produces. And so that message we are still having lukewarm support from our line ministers, Minister Randy Neal at Waterland Resources and Lana Popham at the Ministry of Ag. But we are seeing a fair bit of interest from jobs, economic development, and innovation. Of course, we pride ourselves on being a very innovative sector. And of course, JEDI with Diana Gibson is basically the ministry that is responsible for figuring out how we're all going to keep employed and where those jobs are going to come from. Their deputy was recently toured the salmon farming industry in Norway and met with the major companies, so that's a good sign. And that really sort of brings me to my final point, is that, in terms of call to action, and we thank you, the Village Gold River, for all the stuff that you've done so far on the transition process. But the one area that, I think our current call to action locally is to try and impress upon Premier Eby that he needs to stand up for the North Island communities and the jobs in the salmon farming sector. And he has not, his position has has not been overt on this point. He'll be meeting in person with the Prime Minister on June 2nd. And I would say anything that, you know, can be done between now and then, we are certainly reaching out to the Premier again, making this point. We're certainly making that we have reached out to the new minister. We've reached out to the new prime minister. Federally, all the agriculture associations have reached out to all the deputy ministers of the provinces and the federal government regarding the situation with salmon farming in British Columbia. We're having tremendous support across Canada in that regard. In fact, many of the Alberta government, or sorry, not the Atlantic provinces are starting to get quite concerned about how this ban might affect them on the East Coast. But we are being actually much more vocal than our own provincial government is at this point, which is somewhat disappointing. So that's a very quick update. I can send the slides as backup that I was going to show you guys, but happy just to talk. And then I've any questions that you guys have, I'd be very glad to take. So on any matter regarding where the sector is right now.
Thank you very much for sharing that information with us and that update, Brian. That's very illuminating. We appreciate you championing on behalf of the aquaculture business, especially the open pen fish farming, because that is a critical industry in Gold River, and we are one of the communities that would be dramatically affected if they close that down in 2029. We'd be adversely affected. We're already a community that's economic distressed and economically challenged and trying to recover from a previous type of resource-based industry that we'd had, and it would have a devastating impact on our community. So we really appreciate you advocating on behalf of that industry, and we look forward to working with you to promote that industry and hopefully persuading our new Prime Minister and our Fisheries Minister and our Premier, as well as others, the Jedi Minister, that this is a critical industry and a great growth industry for British Columbia. Would you be open to a couple of questions from my councillors before we move on, Brian?
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Councillors, do any of you have any questions that you'd like to direct towards Brian? Councillor Waymire.
Hello, Councillor Waymire here. We'll be at UBCM in September and be seeking ministerial meetings, and I think this is a very good opportunity. I guess which ministry would we get the most mileage out of to reach that call of action of impressing upon Premier Eby the importance of fisheries to the North Island?
I think the biggest group, the most significant ministry provincially is going to be JEDI, and after that maybe finance, because of the economic impact that we have. We're at a bit of a decision point. If the ban goes through as it is proposed right now, we did an economic analysis in December. I believe it's been shared with you, but it basically says the cost of taxpayers is going to be about $9 billion. And a lot of the transition discussion has been, and I think you guys have been part of this, has been questions about what would compensation be. And first of all, I don't think anyone wants to be compensated out of a job. In this case, we've seen how that's worked in other natural resource sectors. We want to create healthy communities and lots of employment. The flip side of that is, we could very quickly, we're creating about $1.17 billion in economic activity already. We sent almost $1 billion in capital projects back out of Canada when the ban came down or during the transition process. We have the ability to bring those projects back, and we have the ability to more than double the economic activity in the GDP that we're creating on Vancouver Island. So I think JEDI, Minister of Finance, are the ones that sort of see the bigger picture. Our line ministries is Walrus, and the minister is Randy Neal, but they are a regulator. Their role is to regulate how the industry operates, not to promote it. We have an active request that we are switched back to the Ministry of Agriculture. That has still not been responded to by the provincial government, and we won't see that until we see new mandate letters of some sort. And right now, we're not holding a lot of help for that, but we are proud members of the British Columbia Agriculture Council. We see ourselves as farmers in British Columbia, and we're trying to get ourselves back into along with the shellfish growers, get ourselves back into that ministry. So those are the four that I would say are the most important. And of course, the Premier, because in British Columbia, the buck stops at the Premier's office.
Thank you, Brian. Any subsequent questions, Councilor Romero? Any other councilors? Councilor Pickard.
Thank you to the chair, and thank you, Brian, for your presentation and update. And thanks, Michelle and Andrew, also for joining us. And it was great to meet you guys at AVIC and to chat with you guys in person. Thanks for all your advocacy for the aquaculture industry. That's so important for our economy in Gold River. And thanks also for the prompt to get in touch with JEDI. And we were glad to put a support letter together and sent that off. And so kind of for our next steps here that maybe we could do is, would you think it'd be useful if we did a similar support letter with the details of the aquaculture impacts on Gold River to Premier Eby before his meeting on June 2nd? And maybe a second point too, Councillor Waymeyer mentioned we could do kind of a North Island, if we had time to get together, kind of a North Island impacts to the vulnerable communities where aquaculture is so important.
Yes, I agree very much that I think that would be the most useful thing that we can do now is to try and get our Premier, rallying on behalf of this sector. They only stand to benefit from it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. We have some homework to work on before his meeting, but we'll look at getting a support letter to his office and to him done before that. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, thank you, Brian, for taking time out of your schedule. I'm sure family members would prefer to have your company tonight rather than spending time with the council in the Village of Gold River and updating us in the region on status of one of the most important industries in our region right now, aquaculture and fish farming, which is a definite growth industry. And we need to be advocating strongly on behalf of that to keep on promoting that, developing that in our region. We appreciate you coming up and sharing that with us, and we're looking forward to working with you and your organization moving forward as we continue to advocate for this industry in our region, our community. So have a good evening, sir. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you very much. And just one last thing, I would just like to invite Mayor and Council to our annual general meeting, which will be held in Campbell River on June 3rd. Michelle will be forwarding that information to you. So have a great night. I'm sure your families would like to see you as well. So. And please call on us anytime we can. Anytime you have any questions, we're here to help.
Thank you again, sir. Take care. Have a good evening.
You too.
And I now have the pleasure of introducing one of our stellar citizens and our longstanding citizens who's done magnificent work in this community now and in the past. And she's going to give us an update on the status of our Gold River Golf and Country Club. So thank you, Trudy Annan. Thank you for coming out. And appreciate hearing from you.
Hi, my name is Trudy Annan, 542 Cedar Crescent, and I'm president of the golf course. Have been this is my 9th year.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I say.
Got a successor?
No, not yet. I'm looking. But I just, Mayor Lott asked me if I would just give an update because we've been busy, and usually when we come here, we're asking for money, and this is just kind of just to update you on what is going on and what we foresee in the future. So our winter projects this year, the big one was the clubhouse kitchen, renovating that. And it's all completed. One thing we didn't realize was that we had to get a permit from VHA before we could even start anything. So we got that, and then we carried forward. We just had to confirm with them that the products that we were putting in were conducive to a good industrial kitchen. So we passed all that. April 15th, VHA came in. The big thing was the flooring, because we wanted epoxy flooring, which is amazing. Yeah. But with that came delays because the cabinets had to be in before the flooring could go in, because the flooring goes up on the base of the cabinet. So, lots of little glitches on the way, just with delays and what have you. But we did open on the 20th of April, so
Yeah.
that was pretty good. And so we were very fortunate. We had two volunteers who did all of the prep work. Because all the stuff that we got new flooring, we had to get new cabinets, and we had to get new countertops and stuff, and those were all just done through Discovery Floors in Campbell River. So they did all that, but when it came to starting the, you start to take stuff apart and you find all kinds of not so good stuff.
Yeah.
But we were very lucky with Robert Larson and Mark Toohey.
Yeah.
And they took it upon themselves to just do all the work in there and prepare it for the construction or the addition of all the new equipment. Just had to get a couple new pieces of equipment. We used all the original stuff. The total bill came to 43,000. Even, and I can't imagine what it would have been if we had to pay labor. So yay volunteers, and thankful for the ones that we have, because they're incredible.
You guys do a lot of that down there, that volunteer stuff.
Mhm.
I think that's
Well,
why
we
we have a
are-
golf course, because we have a lot of great volunteers in our
But our
community.
employees are, like, they're off the payroll in October.
Mhm.
And they don't go back onto the payroll until March. So everybody that you see out there doing stuff from in that period of time, they're all volunteers. And it's all people that are members and just, either they don't have anything better to do or they just love doing it. I don't know. But, okay, so that's the
I would hope
kitchen.
to think they love their community
Yeah, I
and
would
they
hope
want
Yeah.
and they want to
They just
contribute
love
to
to
it.
golf. They just love to golf. And then on the course, of course, there's always constant removal of dead trees and branches. And we had 2 debris burns this year. One in January and one in April for all the dead stuff that was laying around. So our Fire Smart crew was busy doing that. Number 7 hole, that was a big job with
Wow, is that ever?
Bruce and Mark. That the pond closest to the tee box was all bog. The liner had a big leak in it, and then we started to look at the price of a new liner. Well, that wasn't very reasonable. So anyway, they took it upon themselves to clean. It was full of golf balls.
Probably most of them mine.
I know mine there too. And again, thanks Bruce Wynn and Mark Toohey, they did an amazing job. Doug Vandenberg was able to bring his big hoe in and help with digging it out, and they had to leave it so that it would drain and find out what they were doing. So anyway, so now all the dirt's in and it's planted and we're just waiting for it to grow.
Looks great.
Yeah, it does. It's gonna be great. Yeah. And at our AGM in October, this was brought at one of our other discussions. We increased membership fee by $50 a year, and a general increase of 10% for all the green fees and cart rentals and anything else that had pertained. So members paid an extra $50 this year, and there wasn't any complaints. So I guess that's good.
I hear you hit a new milestone too, that you eclipsed
I'm
the
just-
highest amount. Oh,
that's
did I
the-
take your thunder away?
Yeah.
Carry on.
Did you read my page?
Oh, sorry. I know.
I'm
carry
doing
on.
my report. Okay, next on the list. Okay, our current membership is 105 members,
I
which
heard it was
is,
107 today. When I
oh,
talked
maybe
to
they
Kim.
got 2 more since I talked to them.
That's the update.
Yeah, and we have not had over 100 members since before the mill closed. Like, it's just amazing. And the thing that's very encouraging, I find, is it's the younger people that are joining. That, well, there's a bunch that are like 20 to 39 because they get a special rate. But that 40 kids are gone, just, and they're getting memberships now, and which is so encouraging for the future of the club.
Are you suggesting that most of the membership is old?
Yeah. They were. They're getting outnumbered now, so it's all good.
I can attest to that.
Okay, so this summer, we've got a bunch of tournaments. We've got 3 major tournaments, and these tournaments bring in a lot of people from out of town. They stay in hotels. They'll be here for 2 or 3 days, and But even on weekends, people will come now and they'll camp at the old driving range and they're there for 3 or 4 days all the time too. So, and they love it here. They just love it. So we held a very fun Mother's Day tournament day before Mother's Day. This is an annual event that's put on by the Ladies Club.
Hmm.
And this coming June 21st, 22nd will be our annual mixed tournament. This is organized by Brad
Yeah.
and Unger.
Pretty popular.
Yeah, 40 teams, that's 80 people. And it's a 2-day tournament, so everybody comes Friday and lots of times they'll stay till Monday, depending on how everything went. But that's, they're becoming more and more popular, the mixed tournaments. So this is one that's really popular too. July 19th, 20th, our annual men's amateurs, 80 golfers max. And this is always well received, and they do a 2-day, they come the Friday, do lots of practice rounds and all that kind of stuff. And then there's a majority are from out of town again. And then on in September, the Ladies Club, the new members of the Ladies Club, they're going to resurrect the Jewel of the Isle, which is going to be
They're gonna do what?
really good.
The Jewel of the Isle?
Yeah, the Jewel.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, because we kind of, the last one we had was 2019, then COVID hit, and then those of us that did it for 20 years didn't want to do it again. So now it's nice to see that these younger people are interested and they want to bring it back. And that'll be in September. And so in between our tournaments, we are seeing a steady increase in golfers from out of town. We have, yeah, and it's looking forward to good weather and good golf and yeah, busy times. And that's it. And thank you for listening.
Terrific. Would you be open to any questions from council there, Trudy?
Yeah.
If they may
If
have
they
any?
have any, did I leave anything out?
Oh, we'll always have questions. Councilor Pickard.
Thank you to the chair. Thank you, Trudy, for coming in the presentation. Thanks, Lori, also. And I won't list all the names of the volunteers, but thanks to all volunteers for all you guys do all year round, and especially extra with the Reno this year. And thanks for finding all my water-bound balls on 7th.
I think they do.
And congrats on the Mother's Day tournament. And also one thing you didn't add in that's been really awesome this year is that little putting practice green on the back, and so great for the kids and to get out and not have to commit and be in the way on the course, but really it's one of their favorite things to do is to go down and practice their putt. So that's really good.
We built that thing by.
Yeah, that's amazing. So thank him for that. And the hot dog machine is a hit.
Yeah.
And
Who would have thunk?
and we had some ECDev strategy guys come and help us out, and they're telling us how much more money overnight guests spend in the community. So that's so awesome. You guys are doing the tournaments and adding more tournaments in and having visitors stay in the community longer, helping all the businesses out. And the actual question is, do you?
I knew there was one coming.
My girls are just finishing, they do the Story Creek Junior Academy in April, May they did, and they're going to be here in the summer. So I'm wondering if there's any junior academy or coaching or program this year. Thank you.
I don't think so. Jesse DeBott started that because he was, he's a certified coach. And unless we can get some members together that would be willing to take the kids, we'll look into it because it's still early. And just a Monday afternoon after school or something like that. For the old folks that are retired can show the kids their expertise.
Yeah, I bumped into Jesse a couple days ago and I was really, really disappointed to hear that he wasn't going to be able to do the program because it's such a critical component of a healthy golf
And the kids.
club
had so
because
much
it's the future, right? You're developing the future in that pipeline, bringing everybody else
Yeah.
online. He said he has some ideas about people that he had approached. And
Oh,
I
okay.
said, you should go talk to your president about that. You might like to hear that.
Yeah,
Never
I'll
know.
talk to him. I'll get hold
You
of
might
him.
want to get some names, so.
Yeah,
You might
sounds
want to.
Okay, well, thank you for your time.
We might not be done with our
Oh.
questions. You sure you don't want to? Or we might be. Counselors, are there any other questions that you have for our speaker? None? Again, thank you for coming out. I really appreciate that. And thanks for you and all of your volunteers in there and everybody else that does such wonderful work and
I'll pass that
on
on
such
to
an
them.
important part of our community. Take care. Bye now. Oh, you're gonna stick around? Fireworks? Okay, good. Okay, moving on in our agenda, our administrative reports. First item, 8A, Jack Christensen Center for Use Discounted Rate Museum. Motion is that council approve Gold River Museum and Archive Society to rent a room at the Jack Christian Center for the discounted rent and utility rate of $30 per month for 9 months of the year. Who'd care to move it? Counselor Waymire, second by Counselor Fossin. Any discussion? I think this was just one that was left out in our last council meeting because they hadn't got the required information in, and now they do. I don't see any problem with this. This is historical, so. Any other discussion? No, call for the question. All in favor? Carried. Then 18B, JCC room rental. Motion that council authorize administration to proceed with a 1-year lease renewal with Campbell River Tax Service, Inc. for $150 per month and $30 per month for utilities. Who'd care to move it? Counselor Fossin, second by Counselor Pringle. Any discussion? Those folks are already in there. They just want to renew it. I think they're doing good work in our community, helping folks out with their taxes. I don't have any problems, supposed to help us with our bills by generating some revenue from that building. Any discussion? No, seeing none, call for the question. All in favor? Passed unanimously. 8C, first quarter financial report. Move that council receive the first quarter financial report for information. Who care to move that? Counselor Pickard, second by Counselor Pringle. Any discussion? Not hearing any discussion. I'd like to yield the floor to our administrator, who is also our financial officer. Do you have anything that you'd like to comment on your report, sir?
Anything I have was in the report. It's just the first quarterly report of the year, so there's really nothing significant jumping out at this stage. Once we probably hit the third quarter, it would be something with a bit more meat and substance to compare, but at this stage, it's early.
Yeah, it looks unremarkable, and that's what I like. Revenues higher than expected, expenditures less than expended. That's the kind of model I'm happy with. Councilor Waymire.
Yeah, I suppose it's more of an update on line 41-272, the solid waste garbage truck replacement. Whereabouts are we with that?
Your worship, in the report, as I indicated, we're expecting delivery of that in the third quarter.
I've seen that in your report. Is there anything update on that, or is that still your position that we'll see that in the third
That
quarter?
was the update I received when I put this report together last week.
Terrific. Thank you, sir. Councilor Waymire, any subsequent? You're good? Thank you. Any other questions? Everybody's happy with the budget? Yeah, we'd like more money too. We gotta figure that one out. Okay, doing no more discussion, call for the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Now this one will be interesting. Okay. 8D, Royal Canadian Legion commemorative crosswalk markings. The motion is that the report from the Director of Operation received for information. Who care to move it? Councilor Pringle, second by Councilor Pickard. And is our Director of Operations, Doxy, still here? Great. Director of Operations, Doxy, would you care to speak to your report, sir, so that, because this is something we had requested that you go out and research for us, and I see you brought us back all the pertinent information that we had requested. We're going to make a decision. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, for me through the chair. Per the report, the information is there. I reached out and spoke with the Legion representative locally, and they were interested in the idea of participating in the cost, but at this point in time, they didn't have sufficient funding in place to participate. For the interest of like time and moving on with the summer, I did go ahead and bring the report for information to council, and along with the costs, which were for the initial installation, it would be around $2,000, just under $2,000, which does have some contingency in there. And that includes, you know, purchase of a reusable set of stencils. So the design that was in play would require 3 stencils, 1 set of English words, French words, and then the decorative Canadian flag. Then as with any commemorative kind of crosswalk or decorative crosswalk, annual maintenance becomes a thing. They can be difficult to even walk away from. And so the annual maintenance cost for something like that was in the neighborhood of $930. Again, that does include a little bit of contingency, price changes in paints and things like that. But that gives council a reasonable idea for what it'd take to implement if they wanted to do it on behalf of the Legion. And then, of course, being aware of those potentially, I would see redoing it probably a biannual thing, but there's the possibility that the public pressure could end up becoming an annual renewal thing as well. So just something to kind of be aware of in the back of your minds. And then otherwise, the recommendations or the options for recommendations are per the report. So.
That would be subsequent motion before we get out of here this evening. Director of Operations Doxy, I seen your report that there was a line item there for the cost of the stencils. And said that at that point where you had the meetings with the folks from the Legion, that they were in a position where it could access or give you an answer on the stencil issue, but they seemed to intimate that there may be an access to a stencil that would eliminate that cost from your budget here. And I was wondering, has there been any subsequent follow-up since you've met with them, and have they got back and advised you whether or not they do have that stencil or don't have that stencil?
Again, thank you, back through the chair. Yes, I have heard back from them, and no, they don't have access to a stencil to borrow for that.
Okay, thank you, sir. Council, do you have any questions for Director of Operations Doxy? You must have a excellent report because it's foolproof. Yeah, no questions. Holy smokes. Okay, well, let's move this on a little bit, and then, because that'll make the discussion a little bit more interesting, I think, when we actually have we have to make some decisions here. Okay, there is a subsequent motion that I'd like to make. It's on an alternate stage, and it's for number 1 and 2, and it says, I'll read it out. The council approved the installation of commemorative crosswalk marking as requested, the local Royal Canadian Legion branch number 270, and that council approve a budget amendment to increase the operating budget for roads transportation by 2,000.
Your worship, you still have a motion open on the floor?
Oh, do you want to close the first one? Okay. Can we just vote on the report for the Director of Operations be received? Perfect. All in favor, carried unanimously. And I won't reread that because it's already there. Does anybody care to move that? Councillor Pringle, seconded by Councillor Waymire, and discussion. Who wants to start off? Councillor Pringle.
To the chair, thank you, Mayor. I would just like to say that because of all the work that our Legion does, I think it's only befitting and that we help them out with this. And I'm just really happy to see it. That was one of the recommendations that we had when we had the community consultation. People came in and said they would like to see commemorative sidewalks and for certain people or certain organizations that do help out. And I just am very in favor of this. And I think that, thank you for the report, Mr. Doxy. It was very good.
Thank you, Councillor Pringle. Councillor Wimmer.
Yeah, I'm really encouraged by the, community pride and, the community livability that we're going to see from, a pretty decently low cost. We got to have a crosswalk anyway. The paint's going to cost roughly the same no matter what. So, having some cool Canadian flags on it is going to be really, welcome to this town.
Thank you, Councillor Wimmer. Councillor Pickard.
Thank you through the chair. Thanks, Councillors Pringle and Waymire for your thoughts, and thanks, Director Doxy, for your excellent, thorough report. And thanks to the Legion for bringing this really cool opportunity to recognize and celebrate veterans in our community. And as Councillor Waymire said, and Councillor Pringle, the Legion is a very important part of our community and puts on so much for the community. Just the Easter egg thing is one example, and hosting the volunteer thing and just stuff all throughout the year. So especially in this year with a big Gold River Days and a big event and more tournaments and more people coming, having some things that we can improve and beautify and encourage community pride, I think would be really important. So I support it.
Thank you, Councillor Pickard. Councillor Foster, I'm sure you want to weigh in on this.
Thank you through the chair. I too am in full support of this, as well as I agree with my other fellow councillors. With that support, though, I do believe, though, that we do need to realize that we may be opening up the door to other organizations that may want to have a crosswalk.
Absolutely.
That may not support, that we may not all support. But I am in full support of the Legion here, and I can't wait to see the new crosswalk, and I'm hoping it's going to be the crosswalk 3. So there will be 3. Okay, I'm glad we don't have to choose one. So thank you very much to the chair.
Thank you. Any other conversation, any other discussion? I'll just weigh in. I think that it's on its own merits, it's supportable. But I also think in this current climate right now where we're in this unique position where we're under an economic attack and warfare by one of our best neighbors that we've historically had, where we've been challenged with insults to our national sovereignty by calling our prime minister, our governor, and intimating that we're the 51st state. And then the disrespect that I think we've been seeing. I think Canadians have, it's kindled a elbows up kind of sentiment from a lot of people across this nation who want to make gestures to demonstrate that we are Canadians. We're proud to be Canadians and we want to fly the flag. And I think not only does this support the good work of the Legion, but I think it also goes at this moment in our history, in our time, goes a bit deeper and goes to our sovereignty, and it goes to our economic independence, and it goes to our national pride. And I would love to see more flags in our community, and definitely see maple leafs on our sidewalks going to the Royal Canadian Legion. So I'm fully supportive of this, and I think it's a nominal cost, and it's incorporated as annual maintenance anyways when we do our sidewalks. So I'm not really too concerned about nominal costs. Any other conversations that you want to have? Any discussion? No, all good. Call for the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Done. You might want to stay there, Director of Operations, Doxy. We're going to put you to work again. 8E Asset Management Software Contract Award. And the motion is a council approve the award of asset management software as presented to Catalyst Technologies Canada Limited for $35,880 plus any applicable taxes up to $38,400 PST. And that council authorized administration to enter a contract for the provision of annual operating services, and that council approve an increase of $19,000 2025 budget funded from the COVID-19 Safe Restart Funds. Director of Operations, Docs, would you care to speak to your report, sir?
Sure, if I may, through the chair. I guess it's good I followed the financial report. Let me go back here. So this goes back to 2016, 2017, an asset management plan was done back then. Here we are 6-7 years later, an update to our asset management was done kind of starting back in 2022 with a grant application. It's been extended due to just changes in staff and whatnot. And in 2024, it got going in earnest. The grant was for $190,000. We were running in a good position to be around $40,000 in surplus after all expenses. Actually, sorry, it was going to be more like $80,000 in surplus. We then extended the contract with Asset Strategies to allow for an extra $37,900 to bring us into a phase 3 of asset management, which was exploring asset management software. So that's what this report is about, is the acquisition of the software and annual licensing. What the software does is it takes these asset management plans from being a report that gets visited every 6-7 years that costs, you know, like this last one, $190,000 grant. The next one, you know, we're probably talking 200 or $250,000. They're expensive projects. Asset management software allows us to kind of effectively do everything smarter. So centralized tracking with real-time data for things like annual maintenance that has to be done, reactive, what we call emergency maintenance or unplanned maintenance, where we start to track when there's a break on a service, you know, whether it's a pothole or a failure reported by the public, if it's, you know, even just garbage cans that need emptying. But this data then goes into like a GIS map that'll look like Google Maps effectively. And then that goes to staff, and then they know what their daily week tasks are based on what area they're working in. We can assign lists of tasks that might be related. We can have staff go out and work in a geographic area where they can do you know, duties that may be aligned with the equipment that they have. It provides for some manner of automation, so where we have frequently reoccurring things like, you know, hydrant maintenance or sewer flushing, storm sewer flushing. These things can be then set into a calendar. And like currently what might happen is something might be set to start June 1st, but there's unplanned maintenance that takes place. And then that planned annual maintenance gets deferred, and we'd like to think it doesn't happen, but it gets forgotten about. And what this does is it prevents that, because it now sits in there, it gets deferred, and it's still sitting there with a red flag for a high priority item that needs to get addressed before it results in a failure or a loss of service to the public. One of the other areas that this helps is in transparency, so reporting back to the public. It's a lot about working smarter, not harder. You know, and in thus saving money. So I think we saw some savings this year in the operational budget, and it was nickeling and diming line items by line items. And this helps kind of build off that and just continue helping inform us at the budget level, the council making decisions on what assets to replace. I mean, we can run scenarios at budget times based on risk and see the outcomes of what a decision makes on the risk, and then make appropriate decisions from there. I guess that's about, I mean, I can go into the weeds on this. There's a few screenshots in the report or at the end of the report, just for the kind of demonstrating the simplicity of use of the system. And I guess lastly, I probably should speak to the vendor over top of the other vendors. There were two that floated to the top. The second choice company, it was just a little bit more spreadsheety looking, which was a happy space for myself, but this is something that all of our staff need to be able to use. It's an application that would go on a smartphone. And so to that end, it's the spreadsheety kind of orientated app didn't win out. After we did demonstrations with the vendors, everybody gravitated towards this one. It had a nicer engine in the background, a little bit more polished, and that's why the annual licensing cost is slightly higher, but the module prices for things like the work order system are like considerably less than the competition. So we landed on this one. And that's what's, I guess the recommendation is as per the report, so you've already read, so.
If I could also add to it, by having this software means we're also maintaining our asset management system on an annual basis, thereby negating the need to do another $190,000 investment down the road, because the information has been maintained. So this now allows us to maintain that investment that we've made without having to make another major investment down the line.
Yeah, on the backs of that, I didn't really flog myself, but I'm also what do you call it, professionally certified asset management practitioner. So
Perfect.
Anyway.
Thank you for your presentation, sir. Appreciate that. Councilors, any questions of our Director of Operations, Doxy, on his asset management report? Couple observations, just want to sure I'm correct, is that the funding that we're talking about that you're requesting in order to allow you to to do this in-house asset management, which we would have to contract out and pay a huge amount of money for, is being taken from one of our COVID-19 restart grants that we have a few $100,000 left in that we didn't fully expend during the COVID-19 era. So this is grant money that we'd be spending that's currently needs a place to be parked someplace because you just can't keep it forever without spending it. So that's, just want to clarify that's correct. Okay, and the other thing I just wanted to clarify is that if we don't keep this in-house, it becomes less effective because we have somebody external or some group external managing this asset management, and our team, our managers and our supervisors and their staff are not going to be working directly with this asset management plan. They're just going to be getting reports back in. They won't be as invested and they won't have the working knowledge of this, and it won't be as functional, it won't be as beneficial in the workplace. Would you say that would be a fair assessment, Director of Operations, Doxy?
Yes, you have it correct.
Great. So this is like a win-win-win thing? Is this what you're trying to tell us?
Yes.
You just need more money.
I just need more money. It's a win-win-win.
Win-win-win, you just need more money, it's grant money. Okay. That clarifies it. Thank you, sir. Any other questions that you might want to direct towards the director? Everybody's happy? Nope, not everybody quite yet.
Your Worship, just
Councilor.
before you,
Yes, sir.
we get this, we don't have a mover or seconder on this, so before any debate happens, we should get that done.
Okay, let's take care of that part of it and then we can carry on. We care to move it? Councilor Pringle. And Councilor Pickard second. Carry on. Thank you, sir.
Thank you through the chair, and thanks, Director Doxy. This looks super exciting for Gold River, for the future, for asset management, monitoring, and just making sure we don't miss any high priority maintenance. And it looks like it'll be really neat to see you and the staff work on this, and I look forward to looking at the reports from it. So thank you.
No other questions for Director of Operations Doxy on this issue? Great, call for the question. All in favor? Well, it must have been a very convincing report. Yeah, good report. And we'll move on then. Number 9, reports from council. Councilor Fawcett, do you have a report that you care to share with the community?
None at this time, Your Worship.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Pickard?
Thank you through the chair. And my kind of fisheries aquaculture report, well, we had a really good presentation from Brian, so he saved some info. And we've been in touch with Jennifer Woodland on a regular basis, and she just wanted to update us a little bit on what Brian also mentioned from BC Salmon Farmers, that post-federal election, the cabinet was chosen federally, and it looks really good for rural communities. So as Brian was saying, there's been a bit of a shift, and the aquaculture industry has some new wind in its sails. And we're hoping that we don't have any meetings yet with the ministers as they're getting their teams staffed. So the ministers have been chosen, now they're working on their staffs, but we look forward to getting some minister meetings when their staff has been set. As Brian mentioned, the new minister for fisheries is Joanne Thompson. And so she's replacing Diane Le Boutillier, who came out December 2023. So hopefully when this new minister gets her staff sorted, we can invite her back out to kind of tour some farms and see the importance of aquaculture out here. On the other side, kind of on the habitat restoration stuff, the gravel project that we've been updating you guys on still is in making the gravel at the Western Forest Products pit just on the way to Mushlet Lake. And so that is going to move to another phase later this summer where they'll truck it to the project site. We're still waiting for permitting for the constriction, but the gravel is going to be placed, and that's improving salmon rearing habitat. So also there's lots of residents here tonight and online. We'll get some signs put up on the way to Mushlet Lake, but if you see some gravel being trucked and some work being done on the stream bed there, it's a restoration project. So that's really exciting. And just May 15th, an update that there was a Tubular Trees Indigenous Stream. So it's a big national fund to plant trees in areas that need it. An application was just submitted, and that was led by Salmon Parks and Mowchat Mushlet First Nation in partnership with Western, the Nikusaw Watershed Society, and Ecofish. And that's for some upland planting up near the Octawant watershed. So also really exciting collaborative work that's kind of helping to improve habitats for wild salmon in the area. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pickard, Councillor Pringle.
Thank you to the chair. I attended the audit for the Vancouver Island Regional Library. It was by Zoom last Friday. It was my day off. And it was
Good.
very interesting. Just would like to let everyone know that the VRL is in very good hands. Sorry, I'm just trying to think of the things I want to say here. Because I'll just let you know for their 26 and to 2030, their recommendations are to maintain the same service levels, but I'll be able to ask more questions because we're having a meeting on June 7th and I just had some questions, but they kind of hurried these meetings along.
Okay.
They are, they're looking forward to the next year or two that there'll be collective agreements coming up. So they'll be having that coming into their budgets. They own 6 buildings and they have leases and for, I think it was 32, maybe 47 places. So they're trying to make sure that they have all of those leases and the branch costs and upgrade for security and those kinds of things encompassed in all of their budgets and recommendations for the next 4 years because of they had a deficit a couple of years, 2 years ago, and they're really coming out of that. And they're hoping to be by 2027 in complete, like with 0 bad debt.
Okay.
So I'll have another report after June 7th. And it was a very good meeting. It was very fast. Man, they just go.
I like those
But
ones.
yeah, it was good. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pringle. Councillor Wimmer.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to talk to representatives of Western Forest Products, and I mean, as said previously, Q1, Q2, they've got their permits, they're working on them, but unfortunately, there's no permits heading into Q3 and beyond. It's very frustrating. We've talked to, we sent our letters of support to the Minister of Forests and beyond, and raised the permitting issue as being one that's really, stalling and hurting our community. And hopefully we get some good news heading into Q3, but right now there's unfortunately nothing ready to go.
Terrific, thank you. I had a number of things on my list, but I'm going to defer them to the next meeting because I think these folks here are probably interested in getting out to water meters and that would speed things along a little bit. So I'm just going to defer my report till the next meeting. So reports done, information, items, work in progress. Who'd care to, let's go. The council received the work in progress for information. Who'd care to move it? Councillor Pringle, or excuse me, Pickard and Councillor Wimmer. Any discussion items on there? Hearing none, call for the question. All in favor? Terrific. Carried unanimously. Yeah, I think this is the one that most people have been waiting for this evening, so let's dive right into it. 10B, BC Government News, new water monitoring program could save 1.5 billion liters a year. And Director of Operations, Doxy's attached report there on the BC Water Metering Piloting Project, Gold River Grant information. And who would care to move it? Councillor Pringle, and second by Councillor Waymeyer. And I'd just like to cede the floor to our Director of Operations, Doxy, who's done a lot of work on this and could speak to his report. Thank you, sir. Sure.
Thank you, if I may, through the chair. So at the timing of the writing of this report, I'd heard about some posts and questioning on the social media village site. At the time, I couldn't actually find anything, and so I wrote the report as a basic backgrounder to where we're at. Okay. Since then, I think Friday at lunch, I found some stuff. And so I've created some talking points that might add to what's in the report. So I don't know how many people in the audience have read the report or checked out the agenda, but the crux of it is I'll try to do this in like, 45 seconds, 90 seconds. The province announced in a budget statement back in 2024 that there was going to be some $50 million towards bringing water metering to 25 communities in small communities in rural BC. And then we all forgot about it. And then about a week before Christmas, just recently, they announced the program, and we had approximately 5 or 6 weeks to complete it in that Christmas holiday period. And initially, council approval wasn't required, and so while most people were holidaying, we were writing the grant, and it required going through everybody's service record cards. So the boxes on the floor were everybody's service record cards, going through and trying to document who had services, what kind of services, what size, on all of that, putting it together for the purpose of getting an estimate in this grant together. Some background to the grant. This is about water conservation and water management. The grant that I wrote, I guess I should disclose, didn't have anything to do with billing. It had to do with managing our system.
Okay.
Certainly meters can facilitate a conversation on metering, but we're probably a year and a half before we're even ready to initiate that discussion. And that's probably about a year and a half to 2.5 year long process before we get to a position where if we wanted to have a decision for, against, or for what type of billing, that's about when we'd be hitting that mark, is, probably in the 2 to 2.5 end of that like period in time. There's a lot of information that I can't give you right now. And it wouldn't make for an informed conversation or be fair to ask for there to be a decision on billing at this point in time. But what this goes back to is a lot of things. We have a water system that has totalizers on our wells, 3 wells. And that's it. We have 29 properties in town that are what we call ICI, or institutional commercial industrial, that have meters, and everybody else is paying a flat rate. And what that does, from trying to run a system, it's like driving a car with no, it's like inheriting grandma's car, and it has no odometer, and it has no fuel gauge. And so we can throw the car out when it stalls, or we can push it in the ditch and buy a new car. And what we're trying to do here is put some instrumentation on our car, where our car is the water system. This plays hand in hand, and this is also probably why we got the grant. Council has already approved, the metering, and we're moving forward with the engineering side of our lift stations. So water coming in is, there's a relation to the water going out and into our treatment plant, and that metering both ends helps us tell where there's problems with our wastewater stream collection system, and it helps us tell where we're having stresses or strains on our water system. So we can identify and prioritize. Again, this kind of goes hand in hand with the asset management. This helps us prioritize what water mains need to be replaced first, and but also kind of on the backside, where do we need to look harder at replacing or renewing our sewer systems, so that we can basically do very targeted renewals. Back to the way the town was established and built. It was all built rather fast as a Tassus lumber company. 65, there's later some additions there, the Kanuma subdivision, but by and large, much of town got built very fast in a couple stages. We could never afford to set an arbitrary life cycle on our pipes and then pretend that we're going to rebuild $10 million worth of pipes in 1 year. It wouldn't be sustainable. It wouldn't be affordable. It would be an increase in costs. Putting that instrumentation in helps us control, ascertain where we need to prioritize those replacements, maintain a level of service so people aren't having, multiple main breaks in front of their house every year. And just that's kind of the crux of it. So right now, we're looking at adding instrumentation. It's completely funded by the province. Billing, there can be a conversation on it, but it's years down the road. And for that, between now and then, there will be more public engagement. We had intended for it to kind of come on when we had engaged with some vendors to be able to give some more information back to the public. But over the course of the next couple years, we do want to hear information back because it'll be kind of in line with council. If there is a conversation on billing or if there is not to be a conversation on billing, council needs to hear that. I need to hear that. And then if there is a conversation on billing, what are the priorities? What are we trying to achieve? Those kind of conversations need to come out. So that's all I got for now.
That's a lot. Thank you, Director of Operations Doxy. Council members, do you have any questions pertaining to this question that you'd like to address to our director? I'll start us off. Oh, sorry, Councilor Pringle, go ahead.
To the chair, so we are not going to be billing our residents at this time.
Correct.
That will be something for the next council if we decide not to run it, because it'll be 2 to 2.5 years before billing is even a conversation.
Director
that
of
what I'm hearing?
Operations Doxy.
You're probably looking at starting a conversation in around 2 years we'll start collecting data, sending like mock, we'll have to work that out with administration. There's details yet to work out. But over another 1.5 years, and we'll start having, let me say, like 2027, we'll start having meter data rolling in, and we can start sending that out, or we can be making it available online. We have to determine the mechanism. But that meter data will start coming in, and then we can start the conversation. But we can't do much for a conversation on billing until we start seeing what meter consumption looks like, and then having an informed conversation on bulk rate billing, tiered billing, volumetric rate billing, block billing. There's different setups that help different segments of water users, and trying to make it the most fair, also supporting industry. It's complicated.
Any subsequent? Good.
Okay, so I just want to reiterate that there is no billing, but will there be a public consultation before we decide to do billing?
Absolutely. Any other questions you'd like to direct to our director? Councilor Fawson.
Thank you, through the chair. So following up to your my fellow councilor's question about billing. So this implies that we don't have to bill.
If I may, through the chair, no, there's no obligation to bill by volume with the province. One of the aspects of this that they're setting up is this procurement of practice. So this is intended to be a pilot study by the province. So they're going to be looking at communities that do bill, that don't bill, that bill with tiered structures, that bill with block structures, or that continue on with blanket billing. And they're going to look at what is the impacts of running the system, what is the water conservation, what are the impacts. So it's like a true pilot study or case study. So they're looking at getting big data effectively. So that's the one thing that we're obligated to participate in.
Councilor Fawson, any further questions?
Thank you, through the chair. So in other words, we could refuse to accept this grant money in the future then, or we could refuse these meters in if we wanted to.
I'll direct your question to our CAO, because we've applied for a grant in good faith and we've received that grant. And I don't think I'm not quite sure about the question is, are you saying, can you
So my
rescind that
question
grant and to cancel that grant?
My question through the chair would be then, we could then, to the director of operations or CFO, we would be able to refuse this grant?
I'm not sure your question.
My question
I want
is,
to clarify it.
we as a council already agreed that we
we've already
wanted-
received the grant.
right,
So
but
you're
if
saying-
we found that the residents of our community did not want these meters put in, could we refuse the grant and send them back the money?
That's a clear
Thank you.
question. I understand that. I'll direct that to our director, and I think Director CAO, because I think he would probably be more appropriate to answer that question.
Once we start making expenditures on the program, we would actually be costing the taxpayers money when if we were to back out and try to send that money back, because they would be wanting all of it back.
Subsequent question?
Yes,
Counselor?
so what you're saying is it would cost us money to send the grant money back?
Once we've begun work on the project, yes.
So my subsequent question is,
Sir.
do we then have to begin the process of work on this project? Or can we cancel it at this time?
Well, that would be a council decision on the direction of it, but at this time, we have had direction from council to apply for the grant to enter into the agreement, and we have received the funds, and we've already started the initiation of the work to initiate the program, the project.
Thank you. I just wanted the public to know that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I thought that's what you were doing.
Clear answer is you
No,
can't.
no, not from the gallery yet. You can do the question period. We're not entertaining the gallery until we get the question period. Director of Operations, Doxy, is water in our community free?
No, without going into the financial plan, I think the napkin math is somewhere in the neighborhood around $400,000 a year.
I've looked at the budget that we passed and the quarterly report, and you have for water operations, $308,638,000 that we have charged the citizens of Gold River to run our water service. Is that correct?
That sounds correct to me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's correct. It's right
I
out of
trust
the
you.
budget. In addition to that, council's also approved an 8.9% increase in utilities for the next 4 years in their 5-year financial plan. That's also correct, Director of CAO.
That's correct, Your Worship.
Great. So water does have a cost. And there's capital costs involved there also, I've seen in our 5-year financial plan under capital where we have 25, or was it? Yeah, 35,000 budgeted this year for study and engineering work for the replacement of well number 1. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Next year, you're planning on replacing the well number 1, which we have 3 wells down in the aquifer. That's $120,000.
That's correct.
Correct. And then in 2027, we've got 342,000 budgeted potentially for replacement of a water pipe across the bridge.
That's correct.
So would you say, in your opinion, would you say that the concept that water is free is correct?
I would not agree with that statement.
You would not agree with that? Neither would I. So water costs money. Is the purpose of the water meters, Director of Operations Doxy, is to gouge our citizens and increase our revenues from 308,638 that you've indicated that we need to run that service to provide that to our citizens each year? Is our intention to increase that like hundreds or 200 to 300 so we can gouge our taxpayers surreptitiously and collect more money from them unknowingly?
If I may, again, through the chair, I'd say no. The intention is actually to calve back our operating costs and capital costs to keep them at a sustainable level.
And based on the experience that we had in other communities that do have the water metering programs in, what is the reduction in their consumption and their cost on an average?
The numbers I'm seeing are in the neighborhood of 25%, and it varies from community to community and the types
So
of
water
users.
meters save us money then, right? Based on we're cutting down on consumption.
Yeah, yes, sir.
So-
If the way the utility works is if it costs, $300,000 to run the utility, we divide those costs up by the number of users, and that's the annual fee. If the cost to run the utility is decreased, the total distributed cost goes down for all users. If there's an increased pressure to the system, then that gets split across, regardless of the billing mechanism, whether it's volumetric or a blanket rate.
So this is going to reduce the operating costs and potentially.
That's correct.
Because we're going to consume less electricity to run our pumps, our amortization, we're looking at that, our pumping equipment and our transmission and storage equipment is going to last longer because we're not transferring as much.
That is
Okay,
all correct.
We're not drawing as much water out of our aquifer either and causing all those issues that we have to think about when we're looking at our biodiversity or looking at fish and wildlife and everything else that depends on the water that we're drawing out of the aquifer. Okay. So if I'm a taxpayer and living alone by myself and I'm consuming, let's say 500 liters of water a day, But my neighbor who wants to run their water system all day long because they want a green grass, or they want to have an irrigation to their garden and run it all day long, and perhaps not ever want to replace any leaks in their house and just let these things leak continuously. Or they might have, it might be a crew house and have lots of people living in there, and they're consuming 10 times as much water as me on a day. Like if I consume 500 liters, they consume 5,000, and we have a flat rate. I pay the same amount as in terms of my water tax or my water payment on my bill as that person that's consuming, or the house that's consuming 10 times as much as I am. Is that correct? With our flat rate system?
That is correct. I should also maybe highlight on the point there of
Yep.
leaking water systems. Leaking water can be flagged and reported to residential customers. So regardless, again, of any billing platform.
Right.
So if you've got a water leak on your property, we can let you know that you've got a water leak on your property, and you can engage a plumber before you've got tens of thousands of dollars in damages.
But currently with our flat rate system, it doesn't encourage conservation whatsoever, does it? Because if I'm working to conserve as much water as I can, and I'm only consuming 500, let's say, liters a day in my home, and another neighbor doesn't want to care, he doesn't care anything at all about water conservation, and he's consuming 5,000. How does that encourage anybody to want to conserve water? Because basically the people that are conserving less, I would think, are subsidizing the people that are consuming more. Is that correct? Is that how that model works?
That is exactly how it works.
So why do we have that model? Doesn't seem like it. Can you explain to me why we have a model like that, where somebody who's very conscientious about water conservation, wants to reduce the amount of water that's taken, working very hard to do that, they get penalized, and they have to pay for people who are potentially using or don't care whatsoever about conserving water? Why do we have a system like that?
I think it's be hard for me to defend or explain that system. It's probably born out of initial startup costs, and when systems are new, they don't have leaks, there's not a lot of problems, and we're not worried about renewal. Wherein we'll call it the payback period of our system, where like in its golden years, it's not dying tomorrow, but we're at that stage where we do have to start planning for renewal. And so we have to start planning for like, how do we optimize these like last, 15 to 25 years of life? Because every pipe main,
Yeah.
every block like is, every year that you shorten it, it's tens of thousands of dollars per year that you can either like give back to the system or take from the system.
Well, could it also be an argument that unless you have water meters that can actually create a volumetric billing system, that you don't have any other option but to have a flat rate?
As far as that's my understanding. Is I have not seen or worked in a system that did not have meters with any other option for billing.
And for water conservation and managing our distribution system, you can determine how much water we're pumping a day, but you have no idea what's being consumed. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So you have no way of monitoring how much water is being consumed by our citizens and how much is actually being lost through our distribution system, because we don't have water meters within our residential properties. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So we have no idea how much water we're losing through our distribution system.
That is correct.
Okay, that's not a good thing, is it?
No, that's a key element to the target for this grant.
And if we have water meters, we're able to do that, right?
That's correct.
Okay, another question that I have, because what I'm seeing is that with this new system, volumetric, with the water meters and volumetric consumption, it's going to encourage water conservation. People are going to pay for what they use. People that use less will pay less. People who use more will pay more. That's a pretty general assessment, but is that what's happening?
Generally speaking, being careful to keep the billing discussion as a separate from the management of the system.
I think it's the intention of this council right here not to gouge our citizens. And if you're asking us as a council to charge our citizen $308,638 in order to provide the water service, we're not going to be increasing that because we have water meters. We're going to be decreasing that.
That would be correct, yeah.
Good. That's what I want to hear, because I think that's what these people want to hear. They want to hear that they're not going to be paying more, and they want to know that they're going to be paying for what they use. If they use less, they'll pay less. If they use more, they'll pay more. People that are using less are not going to subsidize the people that are using more. Final question, I'm going on, but there's some other questions I'd like to do just to bring this forward. My understanding is that this provincial government is considering legislation to impose water meters on all communities, that this pilot project right here is going to be part of that process that they use in order to make the determination to pass legislation so that all communities will have to have water meters regardless. If that legislation does pass and we're required to do that, I assume that our costs to the village, our taxpayers here that are sitting in the community, we'd be looking at that paying this 3,200,000, what is it? 3,223,000, what do you got? 2,227,654.71. We would be paying that, right? Because there's no grants. They're just basically, we would have to pay it. And so if we have to pay that, we've got to go and we've got to borrow money because we don't have that in the bank. And so our citizens are going to have to pay off this. We're going to have to install these because it'll be legislated. And that we'll have to borrow money. We have to pay interest on that money, and we can't. And so why wouldn't we take this 3,227,854.71 that we may have to, well, we're going to have to. I know the legislation is coming. I already talked to people who are in that business. This legislation is coming. So if we don't take this opportunity right now, we're going to be going to the bank and asking to borrow the money, and we're gonna have to get a borrowing bylaw from these folks to pay for that, right? Because we're gonna have to pay principal interest in the future going forward, because the grants aren't gonna, there's not gonna be grants available like this for every single community that needs to do it. So why would we not want to take advantage of this? Is there a reason that we would not want to take advantage of this? Can you give me an explanation that would satisfy the taxpayers of this community that we should reject this, and then in the future, not too far ahead, because the legislation that may be coming down, go and borrow money from the Municipal Financial Authority, pay our 5%, and then try and pay this off over how many years, 25 years, and their taxes would go up by $5,000, $10,000 a property, maybe. Well, I'm guessing $20,000 a property. Who knows? I don't know. But it would be an outrageous amount, right?
Mhm.
You could figure it out. What are you gonna cost for how many people we got in town? We got, what are you saying? There's 580 hookups we're gonna use residential, and we got 30 we're replacing, 580 people paying off, or 610 paying off 3,227,854 plus the interest on that? I think every taxpayer would here would say, which, you're done, Mayor Lott, you're done, council members. You put us in that position? I think it's outrageous that we would put our citizen in that kind of position when we knowingly know that this is a bill that's coming down the pipe and we've got ahead of it and we've got grant money to pay for it. Is there any reason why this is not a good idea for the Village of Gold River? Director of Operations, Doxley, can you explain to me why this is not a good reason, this is not a good idea for the Village of Gold River?
If I may through the chair, no. Like I say, it preserves the option to explore different billing mechanisms.
Well, why don't you play
And it's an instrumentation tool.
Play the devil's advocate and tell me why this is not a good idea. Why would this not be a good, make your argument, or just play the devil's advocate and tell me why this is not a good idea for the Village of Gold River, and not a good idea for our taxpayers, not a good idea for our utilities, not a good idea for conservation, not a good idea for environment. Make an argument. Tell me that, I don't know. No, I just want to hear from the director. Yeah. Is that uncomfortable for you, sir?
If I may through the chair, yes.
Okay, I'll accept that. Thank you. Okay, that's my soapbox. Director, excuse me, Councilor Pickard.
Thank you.
I hope I didn't make it uncomfortable for you.
I'm going to give you a brief.
Okay,
I'm going to give you a breather, but thank you. Thanks so much for your thoughts and all the information you shared. And Director Doxley, thank you so much for the report and for spending your Christmas and doing the grant, and for trying to think outside the box and think of how we can conserve water and look at the future. And I can give you, I did a pros and cons list, so I
Oh,
can
sorry,
share
no,
that.
I'll hear the cons. If it doesn't, if it's not gonna make you uncomfortable, go ahead with the cons.
I'm not uncomfortable. So obviously I understand that for residents, it's something new and a change, and that can be scary, especially if you don't know the details. And if it was assumed, I think by a lot of people that the billing would change, which is not the case. So thank you for clarifying that for residents. Yeah, there's no billing change. And also thank you for clarifying, Mayor Lott, that water is not free. Our water's not free. We all just got our property tax papers, look on the thing, we're all paying $330 for the water, right? It's not free. So that's kind of a misconception. It's not metered, so we're not doing consumption basis, but we are all paying for the water. So in my pros and cons list, when looking at it,
I have a list too.
maybe a change in payments in a bunch of years down the road. So that, and Mayor Lott, you also said, we're not trying to gouge our residents, like, we are the residents too. I'm not a low usage household, I'll tell you that. I have so many kids and they're so sticky and they all do baths and we wash the trucks and wash the boats and do the garden and my mom's living downstairs and I'll probably have to pay more. So like I respect that people think that we're trying to gouge the residents, but we are the residents. So whatever is happening, whatever we decide, we all feel and experience too. And so the con is maybe a change in payments to reflect what you're using, maybe not even spoken about at all in this council. And then maybe some kind of like alteration on your grass at the water shut off. So those are the cons I can see reading and doing a lot of research on the program and doing a lot of research with out of 45 applicants, 19 were successful. So 19 communities get this grant. The other 26 don't have this grant and do not get this $3 million that is now in the bank making interest that we're allowed to put back into the program, which is amazing. And then so there's a pro list that maybe I'll share too to help people understand a little bit of why this might be beneficial. As Mayor Lott said, it's thought among communities in the province that mandatory water metering will become sooner than later. Look at natural resources, look at water, look at our residents south of the border. The water is becoming more and more scarce and we're having longer and drier summers and hotter. We are all surrounded by second growth forests that's absorbing a lot more water before it even gets to the rivers and streams. So water is becoming more scarce. It's a really valuable resource. We're lucky. Our neighbors in Lions Bay, they're paying $2,100 a year on their water bill. We're $333, so less than $1 a day right now. So our water, you guys are doing a great job, you and your team. We'll have better awareness of consumption. We'll have a more equitable billing possibility in many years in the future if we choose to do that, and which would have a lot of community engagement and talks and input. So we'll have more accurate data. As Director Doxey said, improve leak detection, improve watershed management, improve sustainability of local water systems going forward for us and future generations. 24/7 leak detection at every service, so every house, 24/7 real-time data. You will know if something's leaking. Seasonal consumption data for planning for water mains, for fires, and for storage. We'll get to reestablish service shutoffs. I know it can be a problem finding all the shutoffs. The water people don't know where they all are and they're lost due to slumping, construction, retaining walls, and driveway paving. So we'll know where all those are. And then when putting the meters in, service them and upgrade them if they need to, right? Provincial staff have also acknowledged, so with neighboring communities that have applied for the grant, provincial staff have acknowledged in writing that future infrastructure grants for water projects will require the communities be metered for water. So if we want to apply for a whole water main reno or some kind of major upgrades for the
That would jeopardize
infrastructure,
all future grant applications for water.
we will need to have metered water. So, yeah, and it's a proven tool. It's a proven tool that it reduces consumption by 25 to 30%. So we know that with increasing droughts and heat, like it's I think infrastructure that enables conservation and supports smart data-driven community water management. And we'll get some really accurate numbers. Like right now, it's showing our liters per consumption per capita per day are 848 and the national average is 223. Well, that's not accurate. It's not what residents are consuming. So we'll actually know what
Could be
residents
lost.
are consuming. Could be lost.
In our system.
It could be used at the fire hall, could be used in the businesses. So we don't really know, and we can't really make changes and plan effectively if we don't know what the data is.
Correct.
And yeah, a big thing that Mayor Lott mentioned is, well, the new housing regulations from the province are every house is allowed a secondary suite. So that could be like 2 households of people in every single family house right now. If you're one person living alone, it's not that fair if it's the same. So, and again, it's a future talk because billing's not on the table right now. It's just the meters that will come in and will be part of the pilot project. In the BC budget for 2024, there is $0 for watershed management and 50 million in this project, of this pilot project, to determine the feasibility of a universal water metering program. So where do you think this might be headed?
I know where it's going.
So it's a bit of a change and might feel kind of like somebody's trying to invade your lawn and monitor how many times you shower and flush the toilet, but it's a really important step to improve watershed management. So those were the pros.
Thank you, Councillor Pickard. Any other councillors wish to weigh in? Councillor Waymire.
Yeah, I'd just like to weigh in on a few, I call it misconceptions I've seen within the community. And ideally, I'm not going to repeat our other councillors or mayor. One big one was that we should be investing in grants or spending this money on other projects like fixing up our sewers or whatever, our water mains. And unfortunately, this is not what this grant is for. That this grant is for the water meters itself. And, by extension, this grant is going to help us with leak detection and maintenance, and will support our staff with infrastructure planning in the future because they're going to have significantly more information to work off of so that they can, figure out where leaks are, whether they're, municipal or whether they're in, the household level. So, the less strain we can put on our system by conserving, getting rid of the leaks that we're just, pumping up and then shooting out wherever, is going to help us. And as Councillor Pickard mentioned, future grant applications are going to involve us having water meters. So we're not playing ball here. We are really just shooting ourselves in the foot in the future. Second, I guess, would be some sort of double billing that this is an additional tax. It's been covered many, many times that, right now we are on a flat rate. That discussion is, 2 years down the road about what, any changes to billing may be. But as we all saw on our taxes, it's what, $340 something each year that we're already paying. So we're not, going to be double billing anybody. Another misconception is that we have unlimited water here in Gold River, and that our aquifer, that we have a river and lakes everywhere, but our aquifer unfortunately does get low. Our wells get super low. What was it? Summer of 2023, we went into stage 3 for the first time ever. So we don't have an unlimited resource here, unfortunately. And just because the river exists here does not mean that, we have access to water, because our water comes from the aquifer, not the river, because otherwise we'd be treating it, and we cannot afford a treatment plant. And I don't think anybody wants a treatment plant because everybody brags about how great the water is here. And I totally agree. It's going back to Courtney. It's, oh God. It tastes like chlorine. And I guess ultimately, the big thing is that we're not there yet. This is like our big first open meeting about water meters. This is, stage 1 of getting a grant that happened over Christmas. So, by no means are any of us trying to blindside the public, but, you know, unfortunately, there's only so much we could say in the grant application process. And what was it, a week ago, we got word that we got the grant,
May 8th.
May 8th. So this is our first meeting since, I believe.
Yep.
So we can only say so much. And this is our first big opportunity to say anything. So I guess my question for staff, either one, through the chair would be, I mean, what are our next steps? You know, both community-wise and, you know, operationally? Are there going to be
Operations,
something
Doxy?
along the lines of, like, you know, education, open community forums? What are we kind of looking at in the, you know, coming months and years?
If I may, the chair, we're looking at getting the procurement process started here right away with a vendor, and then we're going to start on the public engagement, you know, side of the process. Once we have the preferred vendor in line, and that way we can give like better information to people, because they'll want to know how are they going to be installed, when are they going to be installed, what's the box going to look like, what happens if it's in my driveway. These kind of questions are going to be out there, and we want to have as close to, we want to have accurate answers and responses for people. Like I say, like at this point, a lot of questions are going to revolve around billing, and that's going to be some information that we need to digest ourselves. Like I say, we don't have any facts in terms of consumption patterns right now in front of us. So it's not fair for us to have or to be promoting any kind of strong opinion on one billing structure over another. So those are going to be like questions more so where we want to spend some time listening to what the community has to say while we're telling them how the process is going to unroll. We can tell them, you know, who the vendor is, what the construction schedule might look like, what the details of installations might look like. And in that process, we're going to be looking to hear back for concerns from residents in terms of placement, schedules, impacts to activities on their properties, concerns over billing. And so it's going to be a little bit of a back and forth conversation over the next year and a half or two here. So.
Any substitute, Councillor Wimmer?
Perfect. Thank you so much for the answer. And yeah, as noted before, we are very early in this. So, I mean, thank you for looking to the future for, you know, all the ways we're going to engage with the community about this.
On that theme, Director of Operations, Doxy, when does this project have to be completed by?
End of March 2027.
You could be very busy then.
Yes. I feel like a dog chasing a car.
Because I'm looking at your report and it's saying that we're going to do 610 meters, and that's 580 new residential meters and replacing 30 current meters. Is that as well as you could be very busy? Councillor Fawson.
Thank you, through the chair. It looks like you got into more discussion than questions, but I do have a couple more questions that were arisen through the discussion that was happening through the chair to our Director of Operations.
Yes.
Community members have been talking about, oh, well, this will create more jobs for the people in Gold River because we'll have our own employees installing these water meters. Is that true, or is it going to be a subcontracted to a professional group outside of Gold River?
Director of Operations, Doxy.
If I may, through the chair, yeah, we would be subcontracting to a vendor, and they will, like, where they will be picking off staff will probably vary through the project.
Okay,
Subsequent,
thank you. Yes,
Fawson?
subsequent question. And I think this is to maybe the mayor, since you already have information that the province is going to be forcing this down our throats within 2 years.
Potentially.
Or potentially. So here's my thing.
Yes.
Just two questions. One is, if the province is going to force it upon us, why don't we make the province pay for it instead of forcing a grant upon us if our community doesn't want to use it? First question. Second question, and I think this is what the people in our community are asking.
Yes.
it's going to be a pay for use. So if you are a low income resident of our community
Yes.
who has to choose between food, property taxes, power, car payment, bank loans, credit card debt, or a water bill, which are they going to have to not pay first? I know the answer. They won't stop paying for their food. They're going to, so what's going to happen? Nobody's going to stop them from buying groceries, but as soon as you don't pay your hydro bill, they shut off the power. As soon as you don't pay your phone bill, they turn off your phone. As soon as you don't pay for water, guess what? They turn your water off too. Just go look at residents in other communities where that's happened. So how can we guarantee to our residents that elected us and who we are a part of, that we're not going to let them shut off the water for them when we put these meters in, and the next council decides to go ahead and change the billing structure? Hypothetical. Thank you, through the chair.
Okay. Is that it's a statement, correct?
That was a question to the mayor. If you have that answer to the, will we be shutting, who's going to shut off the water? It's going to be the Village Gold River or whoever we're paying the money to.
So
That's going to
currently,
be the problem. You see, I'm assuming, unless you have another answer, who's going to take the payment for the water.
so currently, if people don't pay for their water, we would shut their water off? Is that?
What I'm saying is, pardon me, through the chair, what I'm saying is, if I don't pay my property tax, what happens? My house goes up for property sale because I couldn't pay the tax for the water, for the sewer, or whatever. Or can I just come in and pay $1 and have my house off that until I can pay? This is what I'm asking. Right now, if me as a resident doesn't pay my property tax to cover the water and everything, it goes up for tax sale. So that means the village is essentially shutting off my water by taking my property because I can't pay for it. Now, we put these meters in, installed by a vendor. Are we saying all the money from those meters goes directly to the village? Or do we even know? That's my question. We don't know. Is it gonna, here's what I'm saying. Who controls and sets the cost of the water? The village council, the province, the country? We don't know.
Why don't
From what I know right
Why
now.
don't we know? We have water conservation, we have a water bylaw, we set the
So we
price for,
set-
we currently set the price for water.
Right.
That's on your tax notice
So-
and you pay for that.
So when we go to.
But you're currently
because-
paying for water right now.
Yes, exactly. So what I'm saying is, so when we go to meters and everybody's saying, oh, we're not gonna do two-tiered or whatever billing, but we know what's gonna happen in the future because we all have common sense that we'll take away that flat tax rate for water because that's what the residents are gonna want. If you don't make us pay a flat rate tax for water and sewer, if you're gonna put a meter on my house,
Of course,
I only want to pay that tax once.
of course.
And when I don't pay my water bill,
Yeah.
the village is going to send around an employee to shut off the water, just like hydro shuts off the power, and just like your phone company shuts off the phone. I'm sorry, if you have a different opinion or can answer me in that regard, or if anybody can enlighten me as to if that's not the truth, please answer my question.
I think you're right. If you don't pay your bills, then your service gets cut off.
Then subsequently, then those who are lower income, who have to make those choices between food, hydro, water, what are they going to choose not to pay?
Oh, no, it's very high.
And that's hypothetical, but I know if it's me, I'm going to want water and I'm going to want food and I'll go without power, but I don't want to have to make that decision. So that's just my question. We now know it's going to be us who will collect the money and control the water.
We'll set the race, we'll collect the money and we'll shut service off if they don't pay their bills,
Exactly. Thank you.
I believe. Who's first, Councilor Pickard? Were you first? I'll go ahead. Go ahead, Councilor Bruno.
I appreciate what you're trying to say, Councillor Fossen, but I would believe that if you are renting, wouldn't that your water bill already be encompassed in your rent? And that would be paid off. And I am hoping, and maybe I'm just a Pollyanna, but I'm hoping that we never have to pay for water. I know we pay for water now, but I hope that it would never, because of metering, go up. When we came to Gold River, we said that there was going to be unlimited water. You'll never have to worry about water ever again. Because we came from Ontario. Well, we do. I mean, our ice pack, our snowpack is minus 36% as of May 15th.
Yeah.
We are living in unprecedented times, and we need to come up with solutions. And I think this is one of the solutions that we need to have, not just like Councillor Waymeyer had said, it's also going to impact how we get other grants. And I think this is where we're going to have to go to. I don't want a metering. I think but I'm hoping that there's people in the future that will see that be wise about the billing and to be prudent in how they do that billing and make it fair. Because right now it's not fair.
Thank you, Councillor Pringle. Councillor Pickard.
Through the chair. Thanks, Councillor Pringle, and thanks, Councillor Fossin. You bring up some good points and a good side, but there's one thing, and I don't know if it's been kind of at AVIC and on our emails correspondence, and they've added up, like our fellow councillors and mayors in different communities have added up different mandates and requirements that the province has put on municipalities with no extra funding, our own expense. It's hundreds of millions of dollars, even the housing stuff to do mandatory second suites. Like the province does a mandate and a bill, and we have to do it. The only way we can get more money is taxes. We don't have more money to do what they require. So if the province, it's easy to say, well, if the province requires it, we'll get them to pay, but it's not the case. They're putting more and more responsibility on municipalities with less or not any funding to cover it. So that's kind of one issue. And if at some point, if you're worried about billing and a low-income person not being able to pay their water bill, that we're already paying a water bill. It's the whole total of the operating costs, the wages, all put together, divided by everyone. So that low-income person, if it does move to equitable volume-based billing, has a chance to save money. They won't be paying the same as a two-stacked secondary suite home. That's a crew house, that's a garden, and that doesn't change their water patterns or not conservative of the water. If you're low income, you can be conscientious of your water usage and really have a chance to be on the lower end if it does change to volumetric billing. So I would think if you're low income, you would want that because your efforts to save and conserve and be kind of frugal with your water uses will be rewarded with paying less.
Councillor Pickard, thank you. Anything? Councillor Waymeyer.
I'd just like to follow up on that train of thought with, the fact that, we are still 2 years out for what billing could possibly look like, and it will be a different council by then. But there, are things that other communities are doing, like including lifelines or rebates for low income or vulnerable households, and things like leak forgiveness and efficiency assistance, where if you're not going to have to pay for a gigantic leak if you are taking actions to fix these problems. And if I have a leak in my home, I sure as hell want to fix that leak. And there are these measures that councils in the future can take to, make things more equitable for everybody, whether it's low income, vulnerable households, senior citizens. This is a discussion that would be happening 2+ years in the future, but these are things that do exist already.
Thank you, Councillor Waymeyer. Any other discussion? This is just a discussion on receiving a report. Where no decisions being made. Any other discussion that council wish to have? Any other questions that you'd like to direct to Director of Operations Noxie? Have we exhausted it? Everybody's good? Okay, on the question of receipt Call for the question. All in favor? We received it. Thank you. And thank you very much, Director of Operations Doxy. This is a
Comments down the road.
I'm sure we're returning to this, this subject a few times over the next few years. Thank you, sir. 10C, Strathcona Accessibility and Inclusion Environment Advisory Committee. The motion is council accept the report for information. Who care to move it? Councillor Pringle, second by Councillor Pickard. Any discussion? Council needs some time to reflect on it or no discussion? We're exhausted from the last one. Okay, call for the question. All in favor? We moved on. Reports of committees, none. Bylaws, none. Correspondence, 13A, block correspondence. The motion is that council receive the block correspondence for information. Who care to move it? Councillor Pringle, second by Councillor Fossin. Discussion. Hearing none, call for the question. All in favor? We moved on. And here's some things that we're actually going to be making some determination on. 13B, congratulations letter request, military retirement. The motion is that council approve the letter from the mayor congratulating Master Warrant Officer Arlene CD on their retirement from the military. Who care to move it? Councillor Pringle, Councillor Fossin. Any discussion? Councillor Pringle.
To the chair, I just would like to say this is so awesome and that to please send her our very best wishes on a happy retirement and that we're just so proud of her and she has done definitely Gold River proud.
Agreed. Councillor Pickard.
Thank you, and agreed, Councillor Pringle, and we're very proud of her. It's amazing what she's done. So thank you for the letter. It's really touching and great and ties in really well with honoring the veterans with the sidewalks from a few hours ago. So
One of the
it comes full circle.
One of the resources that the mayor of the Village of Gold River has, as well as other mayors, is that they have a really great staff around them that help them compose wonderful letters, because my letter didn't look anything like this letter until I had some wordsmithing done to it. So I appreciate staff, some input into this. It turned out to be a much better product than I could ever imagine. So and it carries in my sentiments, but it's done in a very, how can I say it? I don't know how to put it. I'm getting too late here. Yeah, it was wonderful. Well done. And I think we're just receiving this information. So enough discussion. Call for the question. All in favor? Done. Okay. And this one was on the last council meeting. I think you guys were waiting for me to get back here to talk about it, but it's under new business and it's Mayor Mike Lott meeting request with the Honorable Diana Gibson, MLA, Minister of Jobs, Economic Development and Innovation. That's what we're doing. And the motion is that council direct administration to reach out to the Honorable Diana Gibson, MLA, Minister of Jobs, Economic Development and Innovation to arrange for a Zoom meeting regarding aquaculture. Who care to move it? Councillor Pringle. Second by Councillor, do we have a seconder? Councillor Waymire. And I'll start off on this. I think that we sent a letter to the minister indicating our support for the aquaculture industry. And at the last paragraph, we also included a provision that said that we would have a follow-up with her. And we were open to meeting with her either through Zoom or going down personally. And that's why I wanted to include this to follow up on that. I want to focus on that. I want to be laser focused on it. I want to make sure that that's the one thing that she's going to be dealing with or thinking about when she's talking to us. I don't want to do shotgun where there's a whole pile of different subjects. It just gets diluted and get lost. These are busy people and I want to have their mind focused on this issue that's critically important to Village of Gold River. So this is why I structured it like this. And I do believe, like when we had that discussion, that all the other topics that we're thinking about in terms of our local economy and other issues that we have are critically important, but we can do those in subsequent meetings. This, I think, is really important for us to keep this focused. And that's why I've structured it that way. And that's why I'd like it to be that way. And I'd like council to support it. So that was a motion. Did we get somebody to move it? Okay, and second it, good. Any other discussion? Terrific. Let's vote on it, move on. Seeing no discussion, call for question, all in favor? Done. Next item on our agenda is question period. Do we have any questions online, Administrator Roy?
No, your worship.
Thank you. Gallery, we're going to open question period. I know that people have been very patient. All we ask you to do is come to that seat up there, introduce yourself, tell me where you live, and then you can direct questions through me, and I'll direct them to council. John, did you want to come up first? Thank you, sir. And just a disclosure is that I used to sit around in that part of in the chambers and listen to this gentleman sit up here in one of these chairs discussing
Yeah.
some of these weighty issues, and that's where I learned some of my chops as well as that gentleman over there.
My name's John Frame and I live on Berman Court.
Welcome, John Frame, living on Berman Court, previously
Okay.
Councillor Frame.
Yeah,
What's your question,
basically.
sir?
Well, my question was, I was in the camp of no meters
Yes, sir.
until I heard you speak. And then I changed my mind again and I'm in no meters again because you said potentially the province is going to make us all go to meters. And the reason I don't like meters is because I've got a daughter in Campbell River that deals with meters at the airport. My mother lived in Cumberland that dealt with water meters, and I seen what happened in that community.
I'm not familiar
And-
with the problems. Can you share that with us, John?
Yeah,
Because
well,
I'm
there's-
trying to understand why there's opposition to meters.
Okay, so my mother was living on her own
Yes,
and she bought the bottled water
gotcha.
and put it on there, had one shower a day, did her laundry a couple times a week or whatever have you.
Okay,
And I know her water bill was about 130 every 3 months.
gotcha.
And every couple of years it went up.
Right.
And for us to sit here and say that it's not gonna go up, maybe not by this council, but the following councils and everything else. You know, we need to,
I think we're just speaking to intent, it's not our
Yeah.
desire to gouge people. I mean, that's what I think people are
That's
concerned
right.
about, John, that secretly, we're paying this, what did I say? The number was that we agreed to pay 308,637, and we're gonna secretly
Yeah.
use this as a cash cow and charge an extra 200, 300 gouging people. We're not gonna do that.
yeah.
So that's our position.
And the thing is, which worked for 60 years now, is
Yeah.
what we're doing.
Yep.
And I had 25 years on the pulp mill, running a hatchery, dealing with wells
Yeah.
and mapping aquifers and everything else.
Yes, sir.
And we drilled a couple of holes at Big Ben
Yep.
with a finer thing, and we could only get 200 gallons of water out of there. Our aquifer here is coarse on the ball field down here, and it is influenced by the rivers.
You're correct.
And
It's called Goody water, groundwater
yes.
under direct influence.
and some things that people don't know is we had a black pipeline, the pipeline used to feed half the Heber to the other side, to the Campbell River side, and now it's coming down this side.
Yeah.
So there isn't a lack of water. That isn't our issue.
Mm.
Our issue is, and I discussed it on council, is our infrastructure and everything else in the ground, and it needs upgrading. And when you pull water for 60 years into one place, it's silt, sand, whatever have you. Sometimes you're gonna have to move the wells or dig it deeper or whatever.
Yeah, that's
but-
what we're looking at, replacing well number one.
My fear is people quit watering their lawns. Everybody's running around going, oh, that guy's got green grass in the summer.
Yeah, I know.
But God forbid we have a few fires like we've had, and we've had those big smoldering ashes land on green grass. It ain't burning.
Yep.
But you know what? If no one waters their grass and everybody conserves on water so bad that the town's drier than a popcorn fart, like
Yeah.
it could go up,
Okay,
and that's some of
Never
my
thought of that.
concerns. Yeah, and that's some of my concerns. And the other thing is, a lot of us are retired on fixed incomes,
Right.
and when you guys are long gone, believe me, it's an easy way to raise taxes.
yeah, I can't speak for our successors, but
No,
I can
I
just
don't-
tell you what my intention is, and I'm sure this council's intention is, there's no hidden agenda here.
Yeah, and I had Councillor Waterman tell me one time when we raised the taxes, what are you worried about, John? It's like a flat of beer. But a flat of beer, you don't have to buy.
Yeah,
Water, you're gonna have to pay for it, you know. So
Thank-
thanks for my,
I appreciate you sharing your insights with
Yeah.
us there.
Yeah.
Counselor
I
Frame,
could speak
I
for
guess
2
is that,
hours
like
on-
Counselor Frame, is that like an honorary title that you retain forever? Yes, sir.
I have a couple of questions.
It's the frame. It's like I'm being double teamed
Yeah,
here.
no, you're not. Yeah, we are brothers.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Hi,
Dale
Dale.
Frame.
Please.
I lived in the community for basically 40 years.
Was
Went
that Cumberland?
went to Cumberland for 19 years. I was on council
Yes.
for 19 years in for 4 years in Cumberland.
Okay.
And I was there when they upgraded the water system.
Tell us your experience or share your
Okay,
experience with us.
so the biggest thing in Cumberland is underground infrastructure. So what they wanted to do was do all the roads and repair the roads and curbside. When you drive through Cumberland, they got no curbs. Those roads were just paved over gravel. All the infrastructure was wore out, and that's what Mayor Lott was talking about earlier on tonight, infrastructure. So when I see Joe put a document out here, and this is what got me,
What was that?
to mitigate impact of drought. No, it isn't. We got water everywhere, okay? Aquifers, 2, 3 rivers, okay? Yes, we need to manage what we deliver and pump and how we use it. But it's not a drought problem. We have an infrastructure problem, okay? It's how are we gonna deliver it? How are we gonna pay for the infrastructure? Well, there's a group called non-destructive testing. So instead of putting all these meters on and spending your money on meters to say, we got a problem over here because they got a hole in their line. Can't we go around with non-destructive testing and test the pipes?
What was
that
it
are
called? What
underground?
is it called again, Dale?
Non-destructive testing.
Okay.
Okay, they can test the thickness of your pipes and everything and see what's wore out and what isn't. And all they gotta do is drill into the ground till they touch the pipe and they just put their little doodah there on the pipe and they can tell you what the life expectancy of that pipe system is.
Okay, I've noted that. Thank you. I'm gonna
Okay.
research that.
The next thing that I would say is water meters are a quick fix to not repairing infrastructure. We had a dam issue in Cumberland and we were building subdivisions. We didn't have the water capacity, holding capacity to deliver to those subdivisions. So how do you mitigate that problem? Get people to stop using the water that you do have. You meter them and charge them excessively. That's what went on there. Okay, so I'm just saying this for council so that you can take all this into consideration, okay? What can be done?
Yes. Well, we appreciate your input.
So in closing, be very careful on, are we fixing the problem? Or are we just wrapping a Band-Aid around it by sticking a meter on it? That's what you have to watch. They drilled wells in Cumberland because the cost of repairing their dam or raising the height of their dam
Yep.
to have a bigger reservoir.
Yep.
Well, maybe we should look at another water tank up the hill.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Might be cheaper. I don't know.
Maybe.
Okay?
Thanks
Thank you
for your input, sir.
time, guys. Good
Yeah.
job.
Go ahead. Oh, you'll all get a chance. We'll make sure that we don't shut the doors as everybody's had an opportunity to speak to us.
Good evening, Mayor Lott, councilors. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name's Doug Neske.
Welcome, Doug.
I live at 412 Donner Drive,
Yes, sir.
and I've been in the town for a little over 31 years, which I thought was a lot, but looking around the room, I'm nowhere close.
Yeah.
So I know. Thank you. I'm not here tonight because I'm against or for the concept of water meters.
Yes, sir.
I would just like to say I'm concerned at this point.
Okay, share your concerns with us.
Yes. I'm concerned how the data from the 2016 municipal water survey report has been used in comparison to the data from the Gold River Water annual reports or the Gold
Yep.
River. Yeah, okay.
I
And
understand
I'm
where
going to
you're-
confuse you with report. So, and so I'm going to say that again, it has been used in comparison to the data from the Gold River annual reports and potentially how it may have or may influence decisions going forward.
Okay,
Okay, so in that report, the municipal water survey report of 2016, I'm going to just quote a few things. I won't take up too much of your time. So they obtained responses from 45 local governments. That corresponded to 66% of the population of BC at the time, and it corresponded to 32% of the local governments. So most people will know what that means, but when you look at the report and go to the results sections of it, it'll talk about, or it says, we obtained a better response rate among larger municipalities and a lower response rate among smaller municipalities, especially towns and villages with fewer than 2,000 residents.
yes,
So again, most of the population accounted for in that survey are from larger municipalities.
okay,
The report indicated, people are throwing out numbers again, but I think it's important again to repeat it, so sorry. The liters per capita per day in that report, they state, continue to fall with the total water use dropping 18% to a number of 494 liters per capita per day. And the residential water use falling 12% to 312 liters per capita per day. And I bring this up because I've heard comparisons to this 312, and again, it's quoted in the Gold River water reports.
Yep.
As a reference.
Yep.
So I'll get to that. So now in that report, there was only one municipality that submitted data in the population group that Gold River would sit in.
what was that community?
That community was Nakusp.
Oh, okay.
The population was 1,512 at the time.
Okay.
They total use, remember, there's two measurements, total use, residential use. Their total use was 922 liters per capita per day.
Okay,
The residential use was 784. Okay, it wasn't 312 is what I'm trying to get at. So that 494 liters per capita per day was the average from the 45 municipalities that submitted the data. The 312 or 312 was from 34 municipalities because 11 didn't submit the residential net down figure. So they were not included
okay,
in that result. So again, this is data,
Yep.
manipulation of data, or understanding the data. Manipulation is the wrong word. So in that report again, they talk about what total municipal water use is. So that includes all sectors, right? It includes industrial, commercial, institutional, agriculture, and water law.
okay,
Residential is the remaining amount if you take all those away,
gotcha.
okay?
But you're saying that we don't have a lot of that in Gold River.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, well, I'll get there. I'm just about done.
Okay,
We find that in the report, these are quotes in the report, we find that smaller municipalities have higher water use. And it also states in the municipal report, it says, however, one should be cautious drawing conclusion as our response rate was low among smaller communities.
okay, I hear what you're saying.
Okay? So now I'm going to talk about my interpretation of some of this.
Okay.
So the Gold River annual water reports, I've looked at the last 2 years, since some of the conservation bylaws have come and things like that. They compare to the residential water use number, which is 312 in the reports. They reference, this is our number compared to 312. Though it references in the wording, they talk about the total municipal water use in Gold River is 1,000 or 884, whatever it is. So definitions are confused. I don't know personally what number is in the Gold River reports because they're calling it one thing and comparing it to a lower number. So, but what the water reports do talk about, the Gold River reports, they talk about a water loss or potential water losses being within its value, right? So if that's the case, then you really should be comparing to total water use and not a residential use number that's lower because you can't account for the water loss number. So again, it's just good data is very important and understanding the data is very important, I think. And it might help in some of this discussion. So the BC Municipal Water Use Report goes on to highlight a few other things. So metering coverage rate, there's a metering coverage rate of 26% of water connections in the province. And again, this was the year it was sampled. So 26%. I'll get into the year in a second. On average, local governments in BC charge residents $394 a year for water. That's from the report. Did I say that right? You're looking at me funny.
No,
Okay.
I'm just trying to pay attention.
Okay. Only 1/3 of the municipal governments charge fees based on volumes of water consumed. They also mentioned that the rates by municipalities are highly variable. They ranged at the time, $135 to $782. And then let's just, we're comparing to this number in this report, or Gold River is the village that I'm part of. But this report was labeled 2016, but the data that they got for the report was 2013 and 2014.
Okay.
So we're talking 10 years ago, 10 plus years ago. But we still are talking about it, that we need to be at 312. Right? I've heard. So the conclusion of that report, it had some more words in there. Increased water efficiency per capita may merely be due to increases in residential density, in which multifamily households have less outdoor water use. Makes sense, right? So my question would be to council is, how does the Gold River ratio of multifamily to single family homes compare to the data presented in the report? That would help us decide if that number or our number is okay the way it is right now.
Sure.
Right? And I think that's relevant.
So do I.
Okay. So it also goes on to say that, that report, the Municipal Water Survey report, makes an important contribution to our understanding of municipal water use and practices in the provinces. Nevertheless, our data remains patchy and incomplete. Without a complete data set, it will be difficult to affirm with confidence that the observed drop in water use is attributable to real efficiency improvements or it's a result of some other factor. Okay. So there is another whole appendice in that report of inconsistencies of data that were submitted by the municipalities. Not going to get into. So I'm just pointing out that data is just data. And if we're making decisions on this data, we should understand the data. That's all. So in closing, maybe I'm going to repeat exactly what I say because I'm reading. But in closing, I'm concerned that the Gold River Annual Water Report really is a total volume used, not a residential volume.
Okay.
And as I see no reference to the net downs that they talk about in the definitions.
Yes.
So as a result, I feel that there's an exaggeration of the Gold River volume usage because of that apples to orange comparison now. It's not apples to apples
I
anymore,
agree.
right? So when people talk about, I think the 1,100 in 2023 liters per and the 800 last year, when you compare it to the 312, that's not right. I don't think so. And yeah, it still might be higher than the 500. That is the total residential use in that report. But why, or there are reasons why Gold River is higher than the averages, right? Let's look at the housing density ratio. You know, how many multifamily homes versus single family homes that have yards? I think we want yards in Gold River, or people that move here want yards. They want to look after them. So smaller municipalities use more water. That's right coming out of that report. And again, there was no net downs for losses in that I can see in our numbers. So we're going to have a higher number than that average. So if metering happens, I'm concerned what that baseline volume is. Because that, you know, that baseline will be the, I'm concerned that the baseline volumes will be, and the associated charges that council's referencing, how do I say it? Like, we need to understand the baseline properly to come up with that whole billing charging rate.
Okay.
And that's what I got.
Thank you for that.
Sorry, and the one other thing is, again, I just want to point out, again, that water survey report that people are talking about, you guys are referencing in your annual reports.
Yep.
It states our data remains patchy and incomplete. So don't rely on it too heavily.
Gives us something to reflect on. Thank you much. Thanks very much, sir.
thanks for having
That's
me.
a lot of stuff to digest.
I can give you a copy if you want it.
Forward it to the office if you would, because those are the folks who'll be looking at it, Doug.
Sure.
Yeah, I think Joe and Mike would be interested, and they'll be the people that are crunching that, not us.
Your worship?
That report, I've downloaded all the data.
We do have somebody with a raised hand online.
Are we finished with our gallery right now? Is there anybody else in the gallery that these folks have been waiting a long time? I'm sure they want to get on home.
A lot of what I wanted to say, Johnny talked about and Dale.
Sure.
Except,
Just introduce yourself. Give us
first of
your,
all, my name's Brian Conrad. I live over in Nootka Drive.
welcome, Brian.
And, I probably lived here for like 78 years or something, 68 years.
Well, we
And,
value your experience and wisdom.
Yeah, I know what it was like down at the beach camp. And I know what it was like while they were building the pulp mill.
Yep.
And I know what it was like when the Crass mill was running for the first, whatever, 20 years.
Yeah,
If you had a brown lawn, you were scowled at,
yeah,
okay?
I bet.
So then they build a paper machine. Takes more water.
Yep.
And the craft machine used more water than the whole city of Victoria per day.
That's hard to.
It's a fact.
That's hard to.
Check it out. It's a
I
fact,
believe, but yeah, I'm not disputing it.
okay? So now they're gone.
Okay.
Okay? I don't care if the snow caps are gone. They're gone.
Mhm.
Right? Like Johnny said, the Heber River's coming back into Gold River. I believe it's not a water problem.
What do
It's
you
an
believe it is?
infrastructure problem. The wells need to be fixed. And then who cares how much water people use? Everybody should have a green yard. Everybody should have a garden. And they shouldn't have to pay for it. Fix the pumps, charge more if you have to on our taxes to fix the pumps. Once it's done, then you're done. The hell with the meters.
That's a statement. Okay, we hear
That's
your
what I
statement.
feel.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Anyone else in the gallery wish to address council go ahead, before I do the online?
Well, I'm here to say yes, please. And I feel somebody has to be here to speak in favor. I'm Nicole Bierman and I live on Shamus Crescent.
Welcome.
Thank you. So I am the youngest one in the room.
I know Peter Teals keeps on telling me he's the youngest one.
And my concern is that we have 60-year-old infrastructure and I intend to live here for potentially the rest of my life. And that infrastructure is going to have to be fixed.
Yes.
And if we receive grant funding and turn it down, we're not going to get grant funding to do this again.
It's a probability.
And I see this as an opportunity for us to find out what infrastructure needs to be fixed. I am grateful that we have somebody here now who is an expert in terms of our asset management. I have lived in multiple communities. I've reported on multiple municipal councils in multiple communities as a journalist, and asset management is a huge issue. Communities are aging and their assets are aging and
Yes.
pipes are bursting and these things have to be fixed and we need to know what needs to be fixed and when. And our community has very little money for these projects. And so if we can be wise about the money we spend by making it a solid plan, by knowing what needs to be fixed, we can have a more sustainable community. I am happy to be paying for my water. It is a very small portion of my tax bill and we have the best water around.
Agreed.
And and it isn't free to get it into my house. I respect that and I want it to come out of my tap when I need it. So I support this project and I understand people's concerns, but I think that usually utilities are paid for based on the cost of providing the utility. They're not meant to make municipalities money. And I don't think that our future councils will try and make money off of our water. I think they will respect the fact that we all need it and we're all paying for it. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Appreciate that. Anyone else from the gallery before I go online? Sir, would you? Oh, please come on up. I tell you what, I refereed junior hockey for a lot of years. This has not hurt my feelings at all. Thank you, sir. You've been very patient. Did you want to introduce yourself and give us where you live?
I'm Derek Lee. I live on Matchley Drive.
Hi, Derek.
I've been
Welcome.
here for 50 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
And what I want to
Well, that's
say
great.
is that
Yes, sir.
I'm not too happy that whoever voted on this,
Yes, I gathered that when
we
I
did
talked to you.
not have a, and I think that the community should have a vote on this thing. And that grant, does it do any money with the infrastructure in this place or just putting the pipes in? Or meters?
The grant specifically targeted for water meters.
So who's gonna fix all that if it's all broke? Where are we gonna get the money for that? You're gonna go get a loan, right?
There will be costs for
Roughly,
maintaining.
that's what's gonna cost.
There's going to be costs for maintaining it. You're
Yeah,
correct.
so who's gonna pay it? Taxpayers.
That's correct.
Yeah, so myself just raise our taxes up $100 for water taxes
Mhm.
for the next 50 years. I might be dead by then. Hey. But,
Or maybe not. You don't look,
well, you're not looking after the older people. And this is an older community now.
certainly is.
I mean, most of us are retired.
Yes.
We're on a fixed budget. We
Agreed.
can't afford this stuff. I grow cucumbers, tomatoes and everything, and I give them to a lot of people in the village
Yes.
but I can't do that if I have to pay for the water. I'm not complaining about my $350 or whatever it is, fine and dandy. I probably use a little bit more than that
Yep.
to do what I'm doing, but I won't be doing that.
I'm
And as
sorry
one
to hear
person
that.
back here said, if everything turns brown, you guys got these people logging all around us. And if it goes up and we're all brown and green and they're not green here, it's all gonna go up. We're gonna be looking like the village up Linton
Okay.
before long. So we have to keep water and stuff.
Hmm.
Those fires down below me,
Yes.
I mean, I had limbs that big burning in between my house and the one beside it. I'm the third house up on Mastery Drive.
Yep.
You know, and if we didn't have
I know
water,
where
I can't
that
use,
is.
do I sit there and go pee on it and hope it goes out?
I sure hope not.
Well, the thing is, I can't use the water because I can't afford to pay 130 or 140 or whatever it is.
Yep.
For a tax.
Okay.
I'm paying where I pay what I pay now and that's it. I like Gold River, but
So do I.
maybe some of us just have to leave. I hate to say that, I don't want to. But because of what's going on.
Yep.
And another thing I want to say is, why would the community have whoever voted this in? I don't know who voted in. I still can't figure who.
Your
voted.
council.
Okay, your council.
You're looking at them.
4 or 5 council members
Correct.
voted in this water thing. And then this gentleman here.
Yep.
Comes back, and say, well, we're gonna put this, you're gonna put this in, we got a grant, we already got it accepted and all this. And
That's
then
right.
he comes out and says, well, we don't have to charge people. You know, it'd be 2 or 3 years before. Well, I mean, who in their right mind is gonna agree for you putting something in and then come back in 2 years and say, oh yeah, this is gonna cost you. And this is how much it's gonna cost you. And you can't say, we're not gonna gouge anybody. Because all the infrastructure was buggered up in the first place. And so you had to pay all that, so you got a big bill. So you can come out and say, well, you're gonna pay $1,400 more a year on water. And so why would I or anybody else agree on that system? What I'd like to see you do is do your research, as you did. You did good. I'm not saying you didn't do good,
Thank you, sir.
but come up with a plan. How much it's gonna cost? How much is gonna cost us?
Yep.
And if you're gonna fix all the goddamn lawns and everything, who's gonna pay for that? Us? You know, are we gonna pay for that? They're just gonna come and dig a hole and put everything in. So I wanna see, before you really go ahead on this, I wanna see exactly how much it's gonna cost the taxpayer of this community to have these things put in per year. How much it's gonna cost us more? And that'll give me an idea if I pack my bags and leave. You know, and I think a lot of people are gonna do the same thing. I have a few people tell me, well, this is going on, we're just gonna leave. You know, and that's what I got to say.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, sir. We enjoy hearing everybody's feedback, and you can let your wife know that we survived it. Thank you very much. And we have an online question. Thanks for your patience. Go ahead, please.
Hi,
Hi.
this is, my name is Laura Browning and I live on Nootka Drive.
Welcome.
And my question, thank you. My question is, presuming that this goes ahead, what kind of upgrades will we have to do to our home?
I wasn't too sure of the question. Maybe it's getting late and my hearing's going, but could you repeat that for me again?
What kind of upgrades will the residents have to do to their homes? Will we need to have, I was reading about expansion packs on hot water tanks?
Oh, I understand. What kind of implications are you going to have on your domestic water system if we put in a water meter?
Right, what kind of upgrades are we going to have to do to prepare for this?
That's a good technical question, and I'll address that to the Director of Operations, Doc, who may have a better handle on that than myself. Thank you, sir.
Thank
If I may through the chair, there wouldn't be any direct upgrade requirements to homeowners. Where you see issues with expansion tanks needing to be installed on hot water tanks is when there's a backflow device required on the line, and that's usually associated with some other risk on the site or the premise. So nothing directly as a cause or effect of this.
Okay, so that's wouldn't be something we would need in Gold River.
That,
okay, thank you.
Generally speaking, that's correct. You know, I'm not aware of any residential properties that require backflow prevention at this point in time.
Well, I'm going to say the reason I'm asking the question is I was looking on the SRD website, and Area D in Campbell River is getting water meters installed.
Yeah, Area D.
And in the pamphlet, it says that there's a section, what do I need to do to prepare? And it says that they needed expansion packs and pressure reducing valves installed in their homes before the water thing that you were putting in is.
Again, if I may through the chair, I'm not intimately familiar with Area D, but if they're talking needing to have pressure, it sounds like it's a new service area potentially. So when you're talking about pressure reducing valves, that's probably associated with that. And then it probably has to do with the size and scale of the properties. If they're rural residential acreage properties, the risk for backflow is much higher. You have things like agricultural and farm uses, hoses and tanks, hoses and wheelbarrows with chemicals and fertilizers and things like that that put the system at risk. And so that's quite likely where those are being birthed out of. So different system, different risks, and yeah.
And to my knowledge, the pressure that you have in the zone that you're currently living is not going to be increased by the installation of a water meter. It doesn't increase your water pressure. It just measures the water flowing through a pipe. So
Okay.
I
So
hope
we
that,
don't have to do anything at home.
stay tuned. This is going to be ongoing for a few years, I think. So we'll be giving you constant updates.
Fair enough.
I'm
Thank you.
hoping that, I don't think that you'll require that, but I'll stay in touch.
Fair. Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome. Have a good evening.
Yes.
Any
you
other
too.
online questions there, Ms. River?
No, your worship.
Any other questions from the gallery? Subsequent?
Subsequent, sorry. Can I just-
Please come forward because then we have the mic and people that aren't here can hear you.
Let's Doug Meske again.
Yes, sir.
Doug Meske again. Just wanted to get some clarification, answers, I guess, if I can.
Sure.
Mr. Doxy, you referred to totalizers in one of your, I don't know what a totalizer is. Can you quickly tell me?
It's a loose instrument on the well pumps that gives an approximated volume based on pump flow.
Coming out.
So it's like a meter, but not a full meter.
Okay, okay, all right, thank you, that's what I thought. The meters are gonna be, if they're installed, they're gonna be installed outside the homes?
Correct.
Okay. Mayor Lott, you mentioned one thing in your soapbox you referred to.
Yes.
Yes.
I thought it was a soapbox. I
All
realized
right.
that, and that's why I have counselors here who rein me in.
Yes, 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 yes. Why do we have a system like that?
Yes.
It was one of your comments. And I guess maybe the only thing I would mention is, we have a system like that, but I think you have the tools to manage a system like that. Maybe not you, all councils have tools to manage that. They're called bylaws, and there's bylaw enforcement.
Sure.
And so there are people that overuse.
Yes.
But you have bylaws, but there is no bylaw enforcement. So another consideration. So just thought I'd mention that.
Sure.
And I think the last one is I heard
Councillor Pickard?
Yes, Councillor Pickard. I heard something about meters will provide up to a 25% conservation. I'm having a real hard time with that, how a meter will conserve up to 25% of your water if you're going to use the same amount of water. Because that's what we were talking about. We're going to put meters in, but everybody can use the same amount, right?
It's that the physical structure won't reduce your consumption, it's your behavior will.
But if, I don't understand how you can draw a conclusion to 25% if everybody continues to use the same amount.
Then there would be no savings
Yeah,
there,
okay.
would there?
So
You
I
just
don't
pay-
understand that.
People just pay for what they're consuming.
Sure, that's.
Water meters don't give you physically a reduction of 30%. It has to be change in behavior and attitudes and consumptions. You're exactly
But if we're
correct.
not overusing,
Yeah.
why would we conserve 25% more?
Good question.
Okay, so
Thank you.
thank you for your time again.
And thank you for all your research. You put a lot of time and effort into that, and I appreciate all your inputs this evening, folks. And I know sometimes these kind of feel a little uncomfortable. I know I'm feel a little beat up, but you know what? I think they're healthy discussions for the community have and good things for the council to hear. So we're not in this little kind of, you know, we're just bouncing ideas off each other. So I do appreciate you guys coming out. I know that, you know, it takes some time to get here and you got to sit here and wait and listen to all this and you've given up your evening to give us this information to help us make better decisions. I believe good information coming in is good decisions coming out. So I really do appreciate you guys coming out this evening. And yeah, and like I said, I've refereed junior hockey for a lot of years, so I'm pretty tough. You can say your part.
One short question before.
Go ahead, Dale.
I was wondering if anybody in the municipality, and Mike, I know you used to work down below,
Yes, sir.
that ever know how many cubic meters of water flows through the gold at Fresh Up? And then how many cubic meters go down the gold in our lowest period in the summer? when we're
Perfect.
drawing?
Yeah, we have a monitoring station down at Yukona and Gold River that we're kind of tapped into, and you can go on that. It's a government service and it shows you exactly what the water flows are, Dale, and you can just, it charts them throughout the whole year. So you can see where they go, right? And I think we can
Okay,
produce
because
that. We can produce that data.
Obviously, right now with all the water going down,
Yeah.
it's helping the aquifer.
Yeah, and you know what? I think the big challenge for us is that it's real time. Like you said, it's going down right now. We don't have two problems. You know, it's well charged at this point. The water table is pretty high. It's just that we don't have the capacity to storage. Like we don't have Comox Lake where during the season where we got right now where we have, you know, high volumes and we can store it in there and take it when we have low volumes, you know, during the summer. So we don't have that. It's real time. So basically during the summer when when the water table drops down because we're getting into the summer season and our water and our creeks are going, our rivers are going down, our snow caps are down, is that unfortunately we don't have a storage place that we can draw from. We got to draw real time from the summer when, like you're saying, the water flows going through the river that are partially charged in our aquifer are reduced. So that's a challenge we have with this water thing that we had, but yeah, a lot of people don't, you'd be surprised how many people have no idea where the water comes. And when you flush your toilet, you have no idea where that water goes. So it's
You're right there. Because I actually talked to a person where they didn't even know where the water come from.
Yeah. And I was one of those people not too many years ago. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming out. Appreciate that. Just wanted to bring council back in our agenda to our correspondence. It's, and in your agenda package, it's 13A block correspondence. There was one item in there, I think I neglected to draw to council attention because there was an ask in there. It had to do with bring air quality monitors to Gold River. I don't think we addressed that. Did we address that, Administrator Roy? Correct me if I'm wrong. So
Just accept for information.
what's happening is that there's, I think the correspondence is pretty clear, and there's the ask is whether or not Gold River Council would like to take the lady's name is Kira Roswell, who's a senior manager marketing and communications with the BC Lung Foundation, up on her offer to come in and provide air monitoring equipment in the community and to provide it residents in their homes. And there's no cost associated with this. They are looking for a response from the council. And I guess the question would be is that, does council wish to support their offer? Councillor Fossen.
Thank you for the chair. I am in support of this.
Thank you, sir. And just do head count. Is everybody, what's your thoughts? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we got it. And first and second, thank you. And so one in favor, Councillor Pringle, you're way in?
I'm in favor also.
Thank
I
you.
want to know if it's smoke or allergies.
I hear you. I'm also in favor. Councillor Rimmer? In favor? In favor, carried unanimously. And that takes care of that one. And let's go back. And where are we now? Notice of motion, none. Motion to adjourn in camera, and the motion is that council proceed to camera pursuant to Community Charter Section 91E, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements, if the council consider that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality. Moved by Counselor Pringle, second by Counselor Waymire.